Welcome to another episode of PS3 Minecraft Chill. Today, at this moment, at this time, I am Alright. I'm your host, Blood Knight, Republic of Blood Afghanistan. Like, share, and subscribe. And yeah, today's, today's just a chill. Alright. Figure out what I want to watch. Alright. Alright.
Build a website you love with Wix. For your words, create your brand, your opportunity, your breakthrough.
So, indie games recently have been popping off. And I mean, like, really, really, really popping off. Like, they've been doing extremely well. I'm actually even kind of shocked at how well a lot of these indie games are doing. And why are indie games performing so well? I will tell you why. It's because they are actually video games. Like, if I go right now and I look at SteamDB, how many of these video games are indie games? Banana is unfortunately an indie game, and I think Repo is an indie game, and it looks like Megabonk is no longer on the list, but Megabonk was also an indie game, and so was Ball Pit very recently. Give me 1 second. I've got to use the bathroom, and then we're going to watch the video, okay? So yeah, it's been crazy. Why don't you take the mic with you? Because I have to pre-watch the entire video while I'm gone, so I know how to react to it in the most optimal way. That's clearly what's going on.
In the last few weeks, 6 indie games have been released.
I love this game, by the way. This is, I've been playing this game a lot off stream. This game is so good.
Made by teams of 5 people or less, and combined they've sold over 8
this is RV
million
area.
copies. While studios with
play a little
hundreds
bit.
of developers, hundreds of millions in the bank are shutting down, these absolute lunatics are winning, and it's not even close. 2025 has
No,
proved
it's not.
something. When you make something genuinely new,
this looks
genuinely
pretty good.
weird, genuinely passionate, we notice. 6 games, all completely unique, all from tiny teams willing to try something no one else would, and they're being rewarded for it, because innovation beats budget, risk beats formula, fun beats focus groups.
Well, look at Napoleon Dynamite, for example. I mean, think about how successful that movie was, and that shit was filmed with a budget of, I'd say, $16, right? I mean, that's it. A lot of video games, you don't really need to do a whole lot of crazy stuff. All you really need to do is just make something that's fun to play, and you don't need $1 billion for that.
Gaming isn't broken, it's just happening somewhere else right now. And this year, it's undeniable. Indie games are winning, so let's break down these 6 games and why they matter. Let's start with the most ridiculous one, RV There Yet. It's a co-op game where up to 4 players try to drive a falling apart RV out of a deadly valley. Kind of like Overcooked meets off-roading, you're steering, repairing,
I really feel like this is the one thing as a streamer that I don't do. I never play video games with other people. I feel like if I did that, the last time that I did that was whenever me, McConnell, and Grayson played Dark and Darker, when Dark and Darker first came out, and people loved it. I gotta do that again.
The vehicle up cliffs while everything explodes around you. It's physics-based chaos.
That was a good day.
5 people made this, veterans from Coffee Stain, the Goat Simulator studio, but still 5 people, and they built the game in 3 months. Started as a game jam prototype, they liked it, fleshed it out.
You're telling me they cooked this thing up in 3 months? And you got, oh man, come on.
3 months from concept to release. It cost just £6, sold 1.3 million copies, hit 100,000 concurrent players on Steam in its first weekend, and for context, that's incredible. More than most AAA games see at launch. And here's why it worked. They embraced the jank, the RVs...
It's because the game's good, and yeah, you're right. A lot of friction inside of video games... developers that are good know how to create good friction. Developers that are bad create bad friction. It's pretty simple.
Monkey controls, the physics glitches that send you flying. It's not a bug, it's a feature. They knew it, shipped it anyway, because the chaos was the point. Speed, madness, fun over perfection, and it paid off. These guys are laughing all the way to the bank right now. Then there's Clover
Honestly, watching this does make me want to play the game.
Now warning, because this one is addictive. Don't say I didn't tell you.
So beat this game solo.
It's a roguelike where you're trapped in a cell with a demonic slot machine. You spin to earn coins to pay off your debt each round, or you literally fall into a pit. It's part luck.
Why can't we do this in real life?
Part strategy, you're manipulating reels, triggering combos.
So this is like Balatro, but you die?
Charms to bend the odds, trying to snowball into a lucky run before you go bankrupt. 2 people made this game, 2 Italian dudes from Panic Arcade. That's it. It cost just £8.50, sold 100,000 copies in the first 24 hours, hit
100,000 in a day? That's incredible. Wow.
500,000 sales in just 8 days.
Holy
Currently sitting
shit.
at over 750,000
I've never even heard of this
sold with a 90% positive rating on Steam.
See, I really got to get my head to the ground and be listening to these games, man. Because, I feel like I'm so far behind the ball in terms of playing a lot of these newer, cool games. I am so bad at this right now. I need to do a better job.
Takes slot machine mechanics and turns them into pure gameplay dopamine. No microtransactions, no real money, just the addiction of watching combos pop off and your numbers go up. They made gambling fun instead of predatory, and we noticed. And a personal favorite of mine, Ball X Pit. This one's
this is my favorite, bro. I love this game so much.
properly mental. It's a roguelike that mashes together Breakout, Vampire Survivors, city building, and probably even more inspirations I've missed. You're batting magic balls up into hordes of enemies like a brick breaker. The balls ricochet and destroy things. You collect loot and power-ups, and then by the end of the run, the screen's filled with a ton of bouncing balls, obliterating everything. Between runs, you
I remember whenever this game was like popular in like 1996, the version of this game back then. I liked that game back then too, because you could get the ball and you could knock it up and then it would go bing 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 bing, and I was like, oh yeah. I would feel so good.
Switch into building a little city that
Felt
unlocks
so
permanent upgrades. It's multiple genres, one game, outrageously addictive, easy to pick up, satisfying to master, unique, addictive, fun. And it was made by only one person, Kenny-san.
Who the fuck did this? One guy?
A solo developer, cost $12.99, sold 400,000 copies in its first week.
Should be more.
Overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam almost immediately. Here's why it works. Kenny threw multiple genres together with zero compromises. Stupid chaos that somehow just makes sense. Most studios would have workshopped this to death.
I think actually there's a little bit more reason than madness here. I actually think that the way this game is balanced and the way the city building and the way the character design is made is actually extremely thoughtful and very good. It's extremely fucking good.
That yes to credit from Capital One allowed me to regrow my credit strength. My daughters are in their 20s, starting out, renting places. We're able to help.
Is it a roguelike? Is it a city builder? Pick one. He didn't. He just made all of it. And the result is something you genuinely can't find anywhere else. Unique in the truest sense. Highly recommend. Escape from Ducks with guns. It's a top-down extraction shooter that just parodies Escape from Tarkov, a notoriously hardcore extraction shooter. You're literally a duck with a gun, scavenging loot, fighting hostile ducks and geese, trying to...
So, is this game really as good as people think it is?
Extract alive with your loot before time runs out. 5 people made this game. Team
Five
Soda,
people.
a small internal studio at Bilbili, the Chinese publisher, gave them the marketing muscle, but the actual dev team is tiny. It's a case of indie spirit with mid-marketing muscle, but the actual
is that the Chud? I thought that was the fucking
tiny.
Chud meme.
It's a case of indie spirit
almost
with mid-tier backing. It cost just $16.99, sold 1 million copies in its first week. Currently
2
sitting
million?
at 3 million copies sold with 94%
Oh my God.
overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam. It hit 300,000 peak concurrent players. And I'll be honest, this isn't really my kind of game, but here's what they did. They took
This game looks awesome to me. I think this is really cool.
Tarkov's hardcore extraction loop, tension, the depth, the loot systems, and made it PvE, solo friendly, kept everything that makes the genre interesting, removed the toxic PvP grief. Everyone assumed it would just be a meme. It looks like a meme, it smells like a meme, ducks with AKs, funny screenshots, move on. But it turns out it's a legitimately deep, polished shooter RPG that respects your time, and the players rewarded that massively. Slots and Daggers is a new fantasy roguelike where your dungeon battles play out on a slot machine. You're venturing through floors, fighting goblins and ogres, but instead of choosing attacks from a menu, you pull a slot lever. The symbols that line up dictate what happens. Swords mean you attack, potions heal you, shields block, critical hits, stuff like that. But there's strategy. You can hold certain reels, equip charms that bias outcomes, essentially deck build your slot machine before each run. It's inspired by D&D clearly, but filtered through casino mechanics. One person made this.
Yeah, this is really good too. This reminds me kind of like Uma Musume. Like, I remember playing that game and I was like, because before I played Uma, I would have never played a game like this, but now I think that I would be more I would be more willing to try it out.
A solo German developer, 6 months of development. It costs £4
Pretty
right now.
derby,
Only
yeah.
been out for 4 days. Already sold 50,000 copies with 94% positive reviews on Steam. He just made one weird thing really well. Intentionally crude art style, proper hand-drawn, small scope.
I don't think it's crude. I mean, I actually think that this art style is very deliberate and well done. I think that every art style, like if you go with a PS1 art style, or like this is like a 2000s, this is a video game that would run on Windows 2000 Professional, right? And it would be a great game. That's the kind of experience that I think a lot of people like. They enjoy those types of games. And so really it's not about the graphics, it's not about anything else, it's just about the gameplay. That's what matters more than anything, is the gameplay and the fluidity of the gameplay. And that's what AAA developers really lack right now, is that they just don't really have that ability to lock down a enjoyable, fun gameplay loop. That's the big weakness. And it seems like it's like, oh, the big problem with video games nowadays is the game part of the game. Yeah, that's it. It's more accessible. Yeah, and a lot of these other games, too, another big factor with them is that they reward short, intensive play sessions. And I think that that's something that, for example, Balatro did very well. It's something that Vampire Survivors did very well. And I think that you're seeing people move away from the longer engagement, 40-minute, maybe 30-minute league games, and people want a 10-minute game. They want a 15-minute game or a 5-minute game that they can pause or move in and out of.
But polished, no chasing scale or endless content, just a tight, replayable loop.
Back to basics,
something genuinely new. I've got a feeling this one could blow up pretty soon. Another one I highly recommend checking out.
Maybe
and
I'll try it
Megabonk, we covered this one already. A solo developer, Vampire Survivors in 3D, sold 1 million copies in 2 weeks. Currently estimated around 3 million copies.
This was a really good game. I hate to say it, I actually liked Ball Pit more. But that also comes as a bit of a boomer who really just loves arcade games. I really love arcade games. So, Ball Pit was definitely for me, but I really, really liked this game too.
Sold. It's the
amazing.
Same pattern, tiny team, weird idea, massive success.
Yep.
So what do all of these have in common? Innovation, risk, fun first, sales second.
They were made with a combined budget of less than a meal for 2 people at Five Guys.
Vision from people who clearly love games. While 26% of European game professionals were laid off in the past year, with over 10% of them still looking for work and 13% of them leaving the industry entirely, these tiny teams were just building something genuine.
Another thing too is that a lot of these video game, like these guys that are really good at coding, some of them might have skills that are unique to the video game industry, but some of them have skills that I think can be translated to other industries. So, like, where do you think you're going to get paid better? Are you going to get paid better at, one of these like new drone defense companies, like Anduril or something like that, or Palantir, or are you going to get paid better at Blizzard? Jeez, guys. Ooh. Yeah, you've got FinTech. Yeah, well, that's another one too. Yeah, financial technology, exactly. Yeah.
New. The craziest part of all of this, you can buy all 6 of these games for less than one AAA release at 60 quid. 6 completely unique experiences, hundreds of hours of gameplay, all innovative, all made by people who took genuine risk because they love video games. And most of these games had more daily players than Bloodlines 2.
That was a flopperooski, wasn't it?
Game, a game that peaked at 27,000 concurrent players on Steam for a fraction of the price and a fraction of the development time. The pattern's clear, small teams moving fast, building what they actually want to play.
Well, it's what I've been saying before, right? Where a lot of these video games become too big to succeed. The machine becomes so big and so bureaucratic that it becomes oppressive and actually a barrier to creativity and to productivity. And I think that you see this happen in all kinds of industries, where small teams that are efficient can be more agile and function like a Viking longboat. I feel like a lot of Viking longboats probably didn't crash and hit icebergs and fucking everybody dies, right? I'm sure it happened, but not like the Titanic. You know, it's much easier to turn one of those than it is a Titanic. And I think that's what happens, is that you have these really, really big games that are in development for 7 or 10 years, and big surprise, by the time this game comes out, the entire industry has changed. And I think that really small teams are able to look at a trend, immediately see what the customers want, react to it, create a gameplay loop, and then put it out there. I think that also there's a lot of video games now that have so many additional and extra things attached to them. So like a really good example of this, and this is like a criticism that I have, is like Digimon has like a card game that's built into it. I think it's kind of like Gwent. That's what I would assume. There is no reason for that to be in the game. A lot of these like weird features that video games have that are like these like secondary game functions. Really, I hate the card game. I don't even know what it is. I never even played it. LOL, people like those. I don't really think that they matter. Really, I don't like mini games inside of video games. I think are way overdone right now. They are tremendously overdone, and like meta level progression, mini game progression, stuff like that, I think is totally fucking overdone. And there's just so much of it now that it's exhausting.
He's diluting the vision. No focus groups, removing
like,
the weird
the reason why, for example, it works for a game like Ball Pit is that it's basically it's your upgrade function, the same as you had in Hades, right? For example. So it's okay, and it's also very, very fast. You place your buildings, then you shoot the guys out, and then you're done, and you do another mission, right? It's not this long, involved process. Yakuza says otherwise. Well, Yakuza has its own, like, I mean, so does Mario Party, right? But, like, it's a different genre of type of game. And I think also it's known for that type of stuff. It's like WarioWare, for example. But I think that in general, a lot of these video games that try to be like an everything game, I think that they just end up exhausting players.
It's just, here's an idea, let's make it, ship
this guy from
it,
you
see
made
what
an MMO?
happens.
Yeah, I
And
played
it's
an MMO a lot.
working, properly
That's how I know.
working. 2025
It feels like
has
video game
truly
bloat?
proved
Yeah.
something. Innovation beats budget, passion beats polish, fun beats everything.
Yeah,
Gaming
fun and just gameplay. Gameplay matters more than anything, right? But the Digimon game is fun, plus it has sprites from the original VPET toys. Yeah, I just think it's just bloat, it doesn't matter, and it's just more bullshit that I don't care about. Like, I get some people might care about it, they might like it, I don't. I think it's a waste of space, it's a waste of time, and then there's no reason to have it. That's where I'm at. That's what I think.
Did you want to redeem your Canadian Tire money? You've got enough for your oil change to be free.
Wait, I can pay with Canadian Tire.
Alright. Interesting.
Every country has its sacred institutions. France has cathedrals. Brazil has Carnival. America has guns and healthcare GoFundMes. And Canada has Tim Hortons. The first place any new arrival of Canada wants to go, they're like, hey, I gotta check out Tim Hortons. And then you gotta gently be like, actually, I'm so sorry, Tim Hortons kind of sucks now. The donuts are mid and the coffee is like burnt bean water. Can I interest you in Boston pizza instead? And then they're like, Boston pizza, isn't that American? And then you're like, you have to explain, actually, no, it's Canadian. And so is Montana's barbecue. And New York Fries actually sells poutine. And I've lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, so Tim Hortons has gone from beloved to almost universally loathed, a place you'd only stoop to going on a road trip or before an early shift.
Hello, internet people. This is my first ever attempt at a late night live show situation, which we don't really have here in Canada, so I figured I better do it. If you like this, please subscribe and let me know. I will keep making them if people like them. And I will also buy some set dressing so it doesn't look like I'm filming it in a weird liminal space office backroom situation. Now, back to the show. Like and subscribe.
And, like, of course it's a Canadian icon. It was started by a literal maple leaf. No, I mean the hockey kind. Who ran it until his untimely passing, after which they changed the name from Tim Hortons with an apostrophe
Just
to Tim
out.
Hortons. That's right, it's plural!
Watching videos.
It's been plural your whole life, probably. But I feel like the plural of Tim Hortons should be like Tim's Horton. Like, like Surgeons General. Like, do you get it? Surgeons General? Do you get it? Mothers-in-law? Anyway.
Some videos in the background. Oh. So yeah, if you're just tuning in. I'm doing some mining and I'm doing some crafting. Alright. Alright. I require more water. Alright. Good. Alright. Gotta get some water. Oh my goodness. Oh. Alright. 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 So yeah. just chilling. So yeah, anyone's tuning in right now, I'm playing some Minecraft. And yeah, got myself a fresh water bottle. So yeah. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, thanks for the comments. Morales, Urdnetta, and Jonathan KKKKSKK. Thank you. So yeah, just joining me here today, just playing some Minecraft, watching some videos in the background. Alright.
Boomers like to complain about the young people as if they're not the ones that played a part in raising them and raising them themselves, you know? All they do is they're just the most negative people I've ever met, you know? They are the definition of a crabs in a bucket mentality, and the ironic part is that these people have it good. Like, any boomer that saved up any money at all could be living the fucking dream right now. And yet they like to talk shit about people as if their lives suck. Like, these people don't understand how good they have it, you know? They are just so insanely narcissistic and just, I don't know where to begin. Boomers love the mindset of tough love to a fault, that they'll see their own kids failing and they'll just sit there and watch. They think that it's the 60s and that all you need to do is just pull yourself up by your bootstraps and just work, man. Just like, dude, just get a job, bro. Or if you do get a job, they'll be like, oh, that's not a real job. Stocking groceries on the shelves that is absolutely mandatory for society to run, that's not a real job. That is a fake one. That's for 10-year-olds to work on some, like, they are fucking ridiculous. Any job to them that isn't sitting in an office doing fake bullshit is a fake job to them. It is insane. And their whole worldview is, I don't know if it's by, you know, like ingesting absurd amounts of lead or what, but they are impossible to, you know, like, you cannot convince them otherwise about anything. They learned all their facts 50 years ago, and they refuse to learn anything more. You know, it's like they are literally stuck in the past. They think that their kids aren't struggling because they didn't. And the irony is when someone younger says, like, I'm struggling, you know, like, I need some help, those boomers will just fucking spit on them and say, I had to work hard in my life too. I had to work 8 hours a day, 5 days a week at the office. Do you understand how difficult that was? I had a home, 2 cars, a boat, and I had to feed my fucking useless kids. You have no idea how hard it is. While, you know, meanwhile, this young person is like, we're doing the same shit without any of the things that, you know, the social contract said we would get. Where's the homes? Where's the fucking anything? You know, they bitch and moan about, you know, like, oh, my son, I don't have any grandkids. Like, no shit. Obviously not. No one can afford anything. No one can afford anything. Like, why would they expect to have grandkids? Especially when Most boomers are just like the most selfish people I've ever seen in my whole life. They are absurdly selfish. The second their kid turns 18, they look at them dead in the eyes, just a blank stare, and they say, "Oh, you need to get out now. You need to find a place to live." The complete atomization of the family is something that will be studied in, like, I don't know, 100 years. Even right now, it needs to be studied. Like, boomers completely self-destruct, or they completely destroy their whole family. And for what? Because moving out at 18 is gonna, like, make someone adult? Like, that doesn't even make any fucking sense. Just because boomers could move out, when they were 18 and work as a grocery bagger and have an apartment doesn't mean that that's how it works nowadays. It's not. If I didn't have family that, cares about me, I got kicked out like that, I'd be fucked. I'd be homeless, I was never encouraged to get a degree or anything, so what qualifications do I have other than having 2 arms and a head? So thank God I have people that care about me, but there's a lot of people out there that don't, good kids too, you're 18, you're a wonderful person. Good chance your parents still don't give a fuck about you. And obviously there's fantastic boomers out there, like, I'm not denying that. I think a lot of the nicest people I've met are boomers, it's just, there's something about a certain part of them, and it's so prominent. There's so many that it's hard not to notice, They are wealthy. They are the wealthiest group on the planet, and yet they act like they're not. They act like anybody can do it. And yes, to some level, everybody can get rich. But that's also, just kind of throwing out the rules, like if you have a low IQ, you grew up in poverty, you're dumb, you're not going to be a rich. That's just how it works, and they don't want to accommodate for these things. They don't want people to get any benefits at all, and I understand that to some level, but people need help, and it's not a community if you're not willing to help out your neighbor, And they shame younger people. It is insane how much they shame people. They see someone homeless on the ground, and they point their finger and say, "Shame, shame." Like, what are you doing? Do you not realize it's a person? Like, people need help. Not everyone is a rugged individual that could go 40 years without human contact. Like, that's just not how it works. And, it's like boomers are so selfish that they would rather sabotage their futures and their health just to spite people that, don't live in a 1-mile radius of them. These people, they don't want free healthcare, and I get it, it's not free, taxpayer funded, same shit, they're printing money. They don't want, taxpayer funded healthcare, but these are the people that need it. It's like they don't have any foresight. You're gonna need that shit, dog, in like 10 years, I hope your insurance fucks you over. Honestly, if you're against that kind of thing, you don't need it anyways. And a big one is just emotional neglect disguised as a strength. They just love to gaslight, saying, "Life's not fair, man. You just need to toughen up. Don't cry." As if we're robots, it's like, dog. People, again, people have feelings, like, I get boomers are, the outlier. They don't have feelings. They're not real people. They're just robots. I get it. But telling your kids, it's like the gaslighting is insane. They will purposely sabotage, their kids just so they can feel good about themselves. It's like, that's one thing I've noticed. I feel like boomers really don't want their kids to do better than them in the broad sense. They do not want to be shown up by their own blood, which is just insane to me because, when I have kids, if I have kids, I want them to exceed and excel at everything. I want them to show me up and fucking be way better at stuff than, me. Like, I don't understand why these people even had kids. Like, did condoms not exist back then? Like, they were just fucking to fuck and didn't know that fucking makes kids? Like, I don't know what the idea was. And because of all of this, you have this massive increase of people cutting their parents off. You know, they say, fuck these people, they don't listen to me, they don't help me, they don't even understand me, they don't even try. They clearly don't give a shit about me, so why would I keep in touch with them? And that is a massive increase in the past, maybe 10 years, I'd say, you know. Economy starts getting worse and you see your parents, even though they have a boatload of cash, they're not willing to help you at all. They'd rather see you homeless than actually being prosperous. You know, it's like they don't understand. Like, they purposely want to sabotage their own kids. You know, you look at any rich family, those kids are going on vacations, they're living their life, they have money, they have help, you know? And people hate that. I hate it too. But that is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to help your kids, even if it requires giving them money so they can find themselves and maybe land a good job, you know? Like, we don't live in a day and age where you can just fucking do it on your own. It's just not gonna happen. It's not gonna go well. And you have kids, young adults being like, fuck this shit. If I'm not getting help anyways, there's really no point in keeping in touch with these people, you know? Like, that is the whole point of being a parent, you know? You don't stop being a parent at 18. You have to care for them, you have to help them. And if you don't do that, don't be surprised when you're in a nursing home getting the fucking shit beat out of you by some person that, they don't want that job. They're not getting paid anyways. Why not just beat the shit out of old people? You know? And this just creates like a generational thing. And I hope these generations can kind of like sort it out in the future. I hope Gen Z isn't like getting shit on by, people by the boomers in the future. That would suck. But there are good boomers, you know, maybe 1 out of 20, I'd say. But it is what it is. So yeah, if you have shitty parents, you know, leave a comment. I know what it feels like to have people that just goes in one ear and out the other, and they really just don't understand anything. They live in a box and they refuse to leave the box. And yeah, I get it. So if you have parents like that, let me know in the comments. You know, tell me what it's like, or at least your experiences. But I'm gonna end the video here. Like and subscribe, leave a comment. Peace.
It must be storming out up in the surface. Alright.
Welcome to PointsBet Canada. Bet on a game and player props live, in the future, or even in same-game parlays. Download it and start betting the way you want today. This is how we play sports, Canada. Visit pointsbet.ca for more details.
Well, apparently things got pretty heated at the Timcast IRL event. Hands were laid on some liberal, but there is, I think, a happy ending and how things should be handled by adults, and we're going to get into that. So I guess Friday night, must have been Friday or Saturday night, Tim Pool hosted an IRL event. And of course, this is a great thing to be happening. Tim's one of the few people that are consistently putting liberals and conservatives together to have the hard conversations. Now, the thing is, it's hard to find liberals who are willing to do this, even if they are people that are strongly unlikable. I don't really know who this Pushing the Limits podcast host guy is, but I will say his name is Brian Shapiro, and he's only, he's got a 20-year radio talk show, and apparently he at least showed up. So I have to give him credit. Now, he claimed he was attacked at Tim Pool's event. I just want to give a little look at kind of what's going on and who he is and stuff like that. So I'm not sure what's going on here on stage, but here's a clip from that event.
Do I have low testosterone because I don't think people like you are second class? No, because all of us had to be fool over here. Subject to you.
I think he's this guy that you can't see behind this woman in pink.
Hitting on Myron this whole time. Jewish leprechaun. That's what it is. I'm hitting on a bigoted fool. But Brian, does that make your brain? Bro, it's really the Lucky Charms. Great point.
Yeah, apparently that's him. Yeah, okay.
But real quick, Brian, is it really that hard for you to comprehend that she has this opinion as a woman? I mean,
as a woman, to make an assumption about somebody because she's not It's not as a woman, excuse me, you're not a doctor. You have no medical degree.
Whoa. Now, I don't know if this Shapiro individual is a doctor and has a medical degree and never talks about science. But again, all credit, because I've never had any direct interaction with him, the purpose here isn't necessarily to dunk on him because he showed up and most liberals don't. And so I'll give him credit for that.
Because you might not like. Did I say, Brian, you have a testosterone? Yes, you said it right over there. I said you said I have low testosterone. Now that's fine. You can think that.
Okay, apparently he has a low. They're talking about a low testosterone problem, but so there was this interaction. You could see obviously tensions were high, but I do want to then. So then that leads to him claiming he was attacked, assaulted, and it looks like it in fact did happen. Whatever the degree of the attack was, putting your hands on somebody because you disagree with them politically is never okay. And, the guy is, hashtag, quote unquote, one of us. And, here's what happened. The guy who assaulted me at Tim Pool's event last night sent me this BS message today. He claims the assault was not, quote, intentional because he was pushed and it was, quote, tight quarters. Complete lies, total cowardice. It's all on video. Now, I have not seen the video, so I don't really know how much, I feel like if he had the video, he would have shared it. But again, maybe there is video of it. I was being pushed myself. I don't poke people. The actual thing I wanted to apologize for is pointing in your face. That's weak stuff. Talking to another man, like pointing a finger, I wouldn't appreciate it. So for that, I'm sorry, he says. Now, he actually did come out and apologize. Apparently, this was Chad Caton. He's in Veterans for Trump. He follows, he reports on Antifa and things of that. He then said, and again, this is kind of how adults handle things. Now, first and foremost, you shouldn't put your hands on anybody. Really for any reason, as somebody who, I was assaulted because some guy didn't like my politics. That kind of stuff is not okay when the left does it, and it's not okay when the right does it. And whether or not you accidentally, poked him in the face, if you hadn't have been, putting your hand in his face, it would never have happened. But he did write, I would like to apologize to Tim Cass, Myron Gaines, Alex Stein, and especially 2PTL radio show, which is hosted by Brian Shapiro. It doesn't matter how or why this happened. It never should have happened. As a man, I own my part in it. I guess, this is what they say. Sarah Fields had talked about Brian Shapiro. Shapiro first came under my radar when I spoke against him for saying that Americans should be deported for calling for the deportation of illegals. Shapiro went viral for videoing himself at a Trump rally doing an interview with Newsmax. He said that he felt like he was at a Klan rally, that it was then that the message began to flood into my inbox about Shapiro. Nothing said about him was positive, but it was what greatly grabbed my attention was that messages were coming from both sides of the aisle. There were a few Democrats that I have maintained cordial friendships with. These are people with whom I interact. Therefore, this is not going to be a political reveal like most of my exposures. This one will simply be a detailed depiction of a truly evil man who will stop at nothing to get what he wants. For the last 2 weeks, I've interviewed 4 to 5 people, some all the way from Vegas. These people do not know each other, but all told me the same thing and the same stories about Brian Shapiro. I might have said Ben earlier. His name is Brian. Shapiro's ex-girlfriend submitted documents to the court after Shapiro petitioned to have a protective order against her. This was done shortly after the FBI started an investigation on Brian Shapiro for potential insurance fraud and theft. After Brian obtained his protective order, the FBI, without further investigation, closed the case. Please note, this protective order goes, quote, on her permanent record. The following statement was submitted by her to the court, and I've revealed it in the thread. His ex-girlfriend submitted a statement in court saying, to the honorable judge of this court, I first want to make a general denial to the application for a protective order against me. I do not want to let the court know that I don't want any more contact from him or the applicant, but I do not want this on my record. I have not contacted the applicant since I was served with the application, even though I legally could have. The applicant texted me and called me 4 days before they applied and swore his application that he was afraid and I was going to physically harm him. This is a woman, I guess. He asked me in a panic to get out of his car of a tow yard as it had been towed from the Stratosphere Hotel overnight while he stayed there. He told me his insulin was in the car, then he had no money to get the tow out. He provided me with the name of the tow company as well as security guard at the Strat. I attempted to pay the company directly, but my credit card had been put on hold on my account after they thought it was a fraudulent transaction. Okay, so we talked about that. Apparently, court documents he put on his girlfriend. Some personal experience with a manipulating narcissist. These texts were guilt tripping for money. This says here, mentioned, I was on Ambien last night. I overestimated what I had in my account. I'm sorry. I can't dip into my savings for someone else who literally despises me. I'm sorry. I again repeat, I will get you Golf Pass. I will unblock you on Twitter. Then can you help me? Or is that another lie? Yes or no? Brian, I can give you $1,000, but I can't pay for your hotel. I just don't have that much money. I'll give you $700 more. I'm trying to get through the week. I know I put money in your account. So he was like, I guess, emotionally extorting money out of her. Brian had horrible teeth and conned his ex into paying for them to be fixed. More extortion and threats from Brian. Basically, pay me money or I'll get you fired. At this point, she had already given Brian $38,000. I mean, ask for $10K if you think you can get me arrested. What's up? Are you okay? I'm not going to harm you. What? I don't know what UO means. You gave me a death threat along with constant harassment, judges, comments about my friends, and you think $100 is a good replacement. This is from Brian. You're going to learn the hard way. I gave you $38,000. You said cruel things to me. You could have ghosted me after I saved your show. Yikes. He also has a past of telling people to end their own lives. You can call me dude, I don't bite. I'm an actual very normal person. Okay, I guess not. I guess, you said you were thinking of taking your own life. If you need a permit, let me know. Yikes. Brian also has an alternate account called Dan Smith. The following are samples of messages sent to his ex. Psycho, cunt, just die, I don't care. Yikes. Yikes. Here's an interesting found regarding Brian's LLCs. According to multiple sources, Brian does not pay his fees or taxes. Brian has a forged ID with an inaccurate birth date. He does this to hide his money so that he can defraud the government for Medicaid. What? These are all obviously claims made about this individual. He also plagiarizes people a lot. Even worse, he plagiarizes people with the worst TDS on this app. Funny enough, JoJo from Jers, who also has been exposed in a different thread, angrily forced Ben Shapiro to take down his TikTok.
Take what you do best and create a website that's worthy of it. With AI website creation from Wix, every click is an opportunity to shape your brand. Find
Dear Ma and Pa Mega, Donald Trump didn't lower your taxes. Okay, cool. Wait, so then Trump lied about financial statements?
You're telling me that the guy who cheated to get into college, who cheated to get out of Vietnam, who cheated on all of his wives, he cheated at...
What? Okay, so he just says TDS. I don't really know how this proves plagiarism, unless he just like reads the texts. Oh, I get it. He just read Jeff Tiedrick. Are you telling me the guy who cheated into college, cheated out of Vietnam? So he's just reading other people's texts and pretending it's his own. So he did plagiarize that. And then here's the text from JoJo from Jers, and here's his tweet, his TikTok.
Be very clear here. Donald Trump didn't lower your taxes. He didn't get your roads fixed or your bridges built. He didn't get you health care coverage or lower the price of your prescription drugs. He didn't decrease...
Why can't these people ever figure out audio? Okay, so he just stole this. He just read JoJo from Jers' tweet and said it. So he's a plagiarist, it appears. Yikes. Maybe his account of the situation is a little bit different, but you know, Brian got mad and posted up me 20 times. I counted on September 27th just for me calling him out on something simple, made up lies. This guy does not seem like a great guy. Hopefully he's turned the corner, but you know what? Even if he's a total loser and a liar and did everything that he's being accused of, you don't get to attack him, which it sounds like this guy at least apologized for. I hope that that's good. He also thanked the Timcast staff and gave Tim credit, which I also think is big of him. Hopefully he's changed his ways and become a more honest person, because he doesn't look like he's a great guy. But I'm glad the way that Tim handled it. He, said, hey, addressing the attack that happened at the taping of Culture War, it's unacceptable in any way to put your hands on talent, guests, or friends. This is how you handle things. So good for Tim. Glad everyone's safe. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like on it. If you haven't yet, please subscribe or follow down below. We'll talk to you again real soon.
Dive into 888 Casino, because it's made to blow minds.
Alright.
Hello. It's that time again. Metagrifter time. Let's go. Alright, so today we're going to talk about the Pope again. I'm going to present a series of strong disagreements and lines of argumentation against some of these statements that the Pontiff has made very recently. In fact, this is not the first time that I disagree with the Pope, but I do want to begin with the usual disclaimer. If you are offended by me disagreeing with the leader of the Catholic Church, then maybe you might want to skip this. I will maintain this respectful. This is also not an attack on Christians. Of course, I'm a Christian myself, but I do believe that whether you be the most convinced Roman Catholic, there is nothing wrong with disagreeing with the Pope. At the end of the day, the Pope is a human being, and whenever we see that there is a contradiction between the Word of God and what the Pope pushes, particularly in matters of politics, then there is nothing wrong with standing the ground and expressing our oppositions. Once again, if you disagree with that, skip the episode. Now, one thing I want to make clear is that the Pope has a double role. He's not just the leader of the Catholic Church, he's also the political absolute ruler of the state of the Vatican. So this is one of the reasons why whenever we talk about migrants and illegal immigration, and he shares these opinions whereby he thinks, of course, that he's against the idea of sending migrants back and illegals, and we should be nice and we should allow the foreigner, the migrants in and all that kind of stuff, then I strongly disagree with that, not only because of my own personal political opinions when it comes to illegal immigration, which I've already shared multiple times on this channel. For a short brief summary of that, I am strongly against illegal immigration. I am in favor of legal immigration, as long as, of course, we don't abuse the legal channels. And when it comes to refugees, I do want to provide support for those people who are real refugees, with that being said, of course, within the budget limits of a system that we have to make sure it doesn't collapse, and always citizens first. And I do believe that this is not the strange, absurd or far-right position that people are pretending that now it is, because at the end of the day, any law-abiding citizen should agree that illegal immigration is illegal and therefore it should be countered. Now, this idea that we have to have this flow of people and borderless lands is nonsense. There's no other country on planet Earth that operates that way, so there is no reason as to why we should expect Western nations to just have this free flow of people. It's dangerous. We need background checks. The only way to do that, in order for us to separate the good immigrants with the bad immigrants, that for instance someone who's running away from their country because they're a rapist and a mass murderer, we don't want those, and the only way to make sure that that doesn't happen is, once again, legal immigrations, background checks, due diligence and the like. This is obvious, and it's absurd that it has even become an area of debate. Having now established that every country on the planet has borders and enforces those borders, you know which country is also included into that? The Vatican, ladies and gentlemen. And you see, hypocrisy is in fact one of my first lines of argumentation today. Because the Pope, remember, he's not just the leader of the Catholic Church, he is the leading politician of the Vatican. He's the one who passes law. He's the one who deals with foreign policy. And I can assure you that the Vatican has borders, enforces those borders, does not allow illegal immigration in, and if you are caught illegally entering the Vatican, not only you will be kicked out, but you might end up in jail, in fact. The Vatican, when it comes to territorial space, is a lot smaller than the United States, we understand that, or Italy as a country. But as I have pointed out on my previous video, the Vatican does own up to a fourth of the entirety of Rome, if the latest archival data that I looked into was correct. Regardless, it's not like they only have the Vatican, so they could absolutely house these illegal immigrants. It's really a matter of hypocrisy. He is very left-wing and he's just attacking right-wing politics, and that's what it is. On this video that we're gonna watch, he's gonna present mostly 3 points. And believe it or not, there is one of these points that I agree with him. And so, as I always try to be fair, even though I do believe this Pope was a mistake, if he says, it doesn't matter who says it, if someone says something and I agree with them, I will say it. I will be fair. So, let's review these things that he says, and I'll provide commentary. When he says something I agree with, I will still say it. Let's go.
In the first place, the role of the church is to preach the gospel. And just a couple of days ago, we heard Matthew's Gospel, chapter 25, which says, Jesus says very clearly, at the end of the world, we're going to be asked, how did you receive the foreigner? Did you receive him and welcome him or not? And I think that there's a deep reflection that needs to be made in terms of what's happening. Many people who have lived for years and years and years, never causing problems, have been deeply affected by what's going on right now. The spiritual rights of people who have been detained should also be considered, and I would certainly invite the authorities to allow pastoral workers to attend to the needs of those people. Many times they've been separated from their families for a good amount of time. No one knows what's happening, but their own spiritual needs should be attended to.
Okay, so the fact that their spiritual needs should be attended to even if they are detained inside ICE, that's the one thing that I agree with him. I'll circle back to that one because it's the third one that I want to discuss. ICE inmates being denied access to a priest or a bishop, I disagree with ICE when it comes to that, okay? But let's talk about these other things because I think this is very important, very important. So, thanks to Christopher Hale for actually putting this into a written form, it will be easier to analyze. Every time I open quotes, that's the Pope speaking. So, Jesus says very clearly at the end of the world, we're going to be asked, how did you receive the foreigner? All right, let's define the foreigner, shall we? Because this is in fact an attempt at taking scripture and utilizing it as a way to manipulate people for political reason, and I do not appreciate that. And this is not the first time that he has done it. I've already shown that he manipulated and changed a prayer, turning it into Jesus, you who in diversity are one. Like, we are going into the absolute insanes with this Pope at this moment. It's going crazy. He's pandering to the left in a way that I was not expecting from the Roman Catholic Church. I mean, with Francis already, we had seen signs of universalism, which is a doctrine that I strongly resent. With that being said, this Pope is clearly worse when it comes to the political field. Now, who's the foreigner? Let me give you a few examples. If the foreigner is someone who has entered legally into the country, they are legal, maybe they married an American citizen, or maybe they're here on a work visa, likewise the same for Italy, by the way, then, yeah, of course, we should treat them right. If they are nice people, they're contributing to society, we should treat them nicely. Me being one of those, by the way, legal alien immigrant to the United States, and I think that's, so if you mistreat people, even though they came here legally, they did nothing wrong, they contributed to society, they learned the language of the land, they respect the land, they never did anything wrong in terms of like criminal records, they are paying their taxes, they are helping their fellow, they're here with their little lovely family. Yeah, of course, if you mistreat those on the basis of, these are just foreigners, so I hate them, yeah, I think at that point Jesus won't be happy with you. Let's look on the opposite extreme though. What about if one of these foreigners has entered illegally the United States and it's in fact one of those Islamic extremists in Nigeria who has been murdering Christians? I don't think that Jesus is going to be happy with someone like this being allowed in, and then when the authorities see, it's one of those, they close a blind eye because, Jesus told me at the end of the world I need to be nice. And then the said foreigner starts causing trouble, starts attacking Christians, starts burning churches. No, sir. I think at that point, dear Pope, our Lord will judge us because we did not defend against evil, because that individual is evil. So foreigner can include a lot in here. Now let's move into slightly less extreme things. What if we have a foreigner and there is a big question mark on top of their heads? We don't know because we don't have the ability to read people's minds now, do we? So that foreigner could be a nice person. He entered illegally, but that foreigner is in fact a lovely person, beautiful, wonderful person. That's one possibility. Or said foreigner who entered illegally is a rapist, a PDF file, a murderer who hates women and children, and if we let him in and we let him stay, he's going to perpetrate those crimes into our population that we were supposed to defend. What do we do then, dear Pope? Do we really have to be manipulated into thinking, well, no, it's fine, all illegals come in, migrants, yeah, let them in? No, because then those crimes are on you. So the only way is through legal immigration, because that way we can set them apart and we can protect our women and children as God wants us to. Pope. This is an umbrella statement, a broad statement used to try and fearmonger people into thinking, but if I'm not nice to the migrants, then Jesus is going to judge me. I don't want to go to hell. This is literally what he's trying to do. And to that I respond, no. Strengthen the borders. Defend the good people. Let the children come to me, is what Jesus said. So every child, every woman, every innocent that is going to suffer because you let people in who were illegal and did nothing about it, that's what you're going to be judged on, as a government and as a people. So he asks us, did you receive him and welcome him or not? Absolutely no. So I'm going to flip this question back to the Pope. You say, did you receive him and welcome him or not? Exactly. What if him is a rapist? Then I think what Jesus is going to ask, did you receive him and welcome him? And you'll say, yeah, I welcomed him. And that's what you're going to be judged upon, because you shouldn't have. That's the reflection, Leo the 14th, that we really should consider. If you appreciate my content so far and wish to help ensure my ability to continue to tell it how it is, regardless of any possible backlash, please support this channel on Patreon. Any support helps me and my team of academics keep the channel strong and gives us the means to fight back against the political rewriting of history. Stand with us, form the wall, defend the truth. On to the next point. This one is another one that always puzzles me, and he's literally repeating left-wing positions and I really are very easy to debunk. Look at this. Many people who lived for years and years and years, never causing problems, have been deeply affected by what's going on right now. Okay, so it doesn't matter the length of time someone has lived into a country. What matters is their immigration status. So if the people that he's talking about who lived in America, for instance, for years and years, have citizenship and are being affected, as some people claim, that's wrong, shouldn't happen. If they're citizens, leave them alone. Doesn't matter where they came from. Also, if these people who have lived here for years and years and years are legal immigrants, they have a visa and everything is fine and in order, yeah, leave them alone. Don't do anything to them. But the problem is that when people talk about this, they specifically mean illegal immigrants who got away with it. So what are we doing? Am I a joke to you? I am a legal immigrant. I went through the books that going through the proper channels forced me to be separated by my lawful wife for 1.5 years. Massive sacrifice both me and her made in order to do things right in respect of law, order and authority, as Romans 13, 1-7 tells us to. Pope. That's in the gospel. Let every soul be subject to higher powers, governing authorities, respect the law, uphold the law. It's all governing authority, it's all over scripture. All of us who have come here legally, whether it be from Mexico, whether it be from Africa, whether it be from the Middle East, whether it be from Europe like me, or Asia. So we do it properly, we do the background checks, we do everything, we contribute to society, we get jobs, we pay our taxes. We are all jokes. Why? Because someone who is illegal and entered illegally just got away with it. So you're basically rewarding people who are sly, rewarding people who are better at it. Because if you get caught when you cross the border illegally, oh, that sucks for you. You go caught quickly. But if you don't get caught, as long as you don't get caught, that's the message you're pushing, then you will reward people who are better. So possibly people who have higher connections within, for instance, organized crime, because they will be able to get away with it. And again, this is not everyone, I understand. But you do have to understand the nonsensical logical loop within this argumentation, which is a massive fallacy. You're rewarding people who got away with it, which of course will create an incentive for breaking the law, just as long as you do it effectively. That's basically what you're pushing here. And it's wrong. It's wrong. Now, of course, I can put at a human level, I can feel that someone who has come here illegally and created a life and stayed here for 5 years, for 8 years, and then they get caught, I understand. It's horrible. But the condition shouldn't have happened in the first place. And there is a way to avoid this from happening. Enforce the law. Maybe ensure that people come in legally, reward people who come in legally, and then you won't have anything to worry about. Leo, the first US Pope, has previously decried the federal government's treatment of immigrants caught up in a hardline crackdown that has roiled cities across the country. A situation, by the way, created by the previous administration that did not enforce border control or homeland security as they should have. There would be no ICE whatsoever if there were no waves of millions of immigrants illegally entering the country. But let's continue. In reference to the Chicago ICE inmates, he said on Tuesday that the spiritual rights of detained need to be considered. Open quotes, I would certainly invite the authorities to allow pastoral workers to attend to the needs of those people in need, he said. Close quotes. And that I agree with. So if it did happen, so as we continue, many times they have been separated from their families for a good amount of time. No one knows what's happening. Yeah, probably like allow them a phone call. But their own spiritual needs should be attended to. A delegation of the clergy, including a Catholic bishop, tried to bring the inmates Holy Communion on November the 1st, the Catholic feast of All Saints, but were denied access to their facility. So this is in fact the only thing I agree with him when it comes to this. Now, I don't know why ICE wouldn't allow a Catholic bishop or maybe some priests to enter the facility and administer, and if these migrants so choose, administer like Holy Communion or confession, whatever it is that they want, or maybe you just even to be there to pray with them, okay? Because at a human level, all right, I do feel for those illegal immigrants who aren't mass murderers and rapists. I don't feel for the latter, but I do feel for the former. So I don't see anything wrong with letting a priest or letting a bishop enter the facility and deliver Holy Communion, Mass, and all the rest, and praying with these people if that's what they want. If they're Christians, then yeah, the government should allow that. Now, I don't know if it's a security risk, because again, these ICE facilities have been targeted. Do remember that. Do remember that we have had snipers shooting at vans. Do remember that we have had Antifa attacking these buildings, trying to plant bombs. So this is the only way in which I could understand this. You can't just let anyone in. Well, then again, a bishop isn't anyone, but what if it's also for the security and safety of said bishop? What happens if the bishop enters, but on that very day, because if this becomes a thing, and like every Tuesday, for instance, or every...
Hey Canada, head on down to Montana's and get the best of both worlds. Enjoy our 7-ounce sirloin aged for 50 days, flame grilled and served with your choice of 2 sides and onion rings, just $26.99 every day. Plus, add a Canadian lobster tail to surf your turf. Now featuring an even larger tail, only $12 more. Dive into this or our lobster spinach dip, lobster mac and cheese, and more.
Sunday, bishops or priests, whatever it is, and religious people at this point, not just Catholics, because maybe some of these migrants might be Protestants, so maybe then you need to start letting in the vicars, and then you need to start letting in the pastors, and then you need to, maybe one of these is a Mormon, so you need to let in an LDS missionary couple. So of course this could be problematic again, because the Pope only thinks about Catholicism when it comes to this, but we need to give then at that point access to all religions, and of course that's going to include Islam. But that's a problem. That could be a problem. You can imagine why. So at this point, if you allow it for Christianity, should we allow Buddhists in? Should we allow Muslims in, and to go and give them the spiritual prayer? I mean, it could become a safety concern. It could become a safety concern, not only because someone could try and smuggle in, pretend that they are priests, pretend that they are there for spiritual reasons, even for Islamic reasons, and then in reality they blow everything up. So you would have to have, you have to prepare the facility for it. You have to do proper checks, like who are you, show your ID, show me that you're actually here for religious reason, that you are some kind of religious figure. You would have to check that they haven't got any weapons, because this is the reality we live in. A reality, by the way, created by the left, the radical left specifically, that shoots and places bombs. So the Pope is only focusing on ICE didn't let in the bishop, to which I agree. Yeah, I wish they did, but why is he not considering all these other situations that did happen? And apart from the protection of the facility, the ICE officers, and the migrants, since the last radical leftist ended up shooting the migrants by mistake, if you remember, with a sniper rifle, the reality is that this could also be a position of making sure that a Catholic bishop doesn't get blown to pieces because an Antifa cell, because Antifa people were blowing up the place on that day. So it's not something that I think we should immediately point a finger and say, oh, they didn't let the bishop in. Well, maybe they have security reasons for it, security concerns when it comes to it. And so what I would say when it comes to the government and ICE is perhaps create a way, since I'm not the professional here, but I'm sure there are ways to secure the area, make this something that could happen in terms of without breaking or causing a situation whereby there could be a security breach, if you will. If that can be organized and professionals say, no, yeah, we can let in one person a month or one person every 2 weeks for religious purposes. It's just that it needs to be highly organized so that this doesn't become a point of weakness when it comes to security. Then at that point, I would say, yeah, absolutely, these people should have their spiritual needs attended to. But anyways, this is really what I wanted to talk about. I really don't like this Pope. I don't know what to tell you. I really don't like this Pope one bit. I was very hopeful. I really loved the idea that he was American, I'll be honest with you. But the way he's conducting himself, the way he's using scripture, and the way he's modifying prayer in order to push a political agenda, no. Thanks for watching.
Need money for a rainy day? Get approved in minutes with Easy Financial without impacting your credit score.
I don't believe that there is any chance in hell that if the Democrats don't retake the Senate, that they don't nuke the filibuster.
Right.
I mean, all they got to do is say, "Oh, well, we're up against Nazis right here. This is not the time. We can't be working with them anymore. This isn't going to work." And then they just get rid of the filibuster. All it takes is 51 votes to get rid of the 60-vote threshold.
Yep.
We have enough Republicans to do it, but there are too many spineless ones in there.
Manhunt underway after federal agents take gunfire as rioters ram vehicles, hurl debris, and a gunman remains at large. So far, we don't know exactly who's shooting at these cops, but we have reason to believe it is linked to the Latin Kings, gang members who have been issued shoot-on-sight orders targeting agents in Chicago. Now, I don't know what you'd call it. Chicago's becoming a war zone. I wouldn't necessarily say that this is civil war, but this is certainly what it starts like, what it looks like. My friends, as I've described it, what you will see is you will wake up and you will hear the news. You will hear the stories. Bombings here, shootings there. Virginia just elected a man who fantasizes about killing children of his political enemies and killing his political enemies. And I've stated to many people, nothing's going to happen. Nothing formally. We're not going to hear stories of conservatives being murdered. Not from this, maybe from other stories. No, the head of law enforcement in Virginia, when he does target prominent conservatives, it'll be for possession of contraband, illicit substance. They'll get pulled over and given tickets. They'll get pulled over and cops will just happen to find a little baggie of drugs, more than enough to jam up any one of these individuals. You got guns, just so happens you did everything wrong with your gun and they're coming for you. Then they'll say, it's not political. This Republican, it's a coincidence he's a Republican. He's just some guy we pulled over. He had drugs. And what will you do about it? I'm going to bring in our friend Nick Sorter to talk about what is currently going on the ground across this country, what he's seen covering this news. Let's see if we can get it going. Looks like we've got it booting up. We will bring in Nick. Should be good to go. Nick Sorter, what is going on?
Let's go, Tim.
It's getting crazier every day. You see the story about ICE. It was CBP getting shot at. I think it was ICE, actually, in Chicago. Well, you shake your head because, is this the 5th, 6th, or 7th time? Which story are you talking about?
Which instance of it are we talking about at this point? You know, I know what you're talking about. I saw the photos of it with you see like a Jeep Wagoneer with the windows busted out from the back because people are genuinely opening fire on these people, and it's a matter of time before they're just assassinated in the streets. And I mean, it's been normalized, man.
That was the attempt. So we've got this over the weekend. The report is that Latin King gang members in Chicago have been given shoot-on-sight orders to kill DHS agents, and then you have that story at the same time. You have the story of this Jeep pulling up while they're trying to they were arresting somebody and open fire. Seems like it's related. Obviously, this isn't the only thing we've seen. It's been bubbling up with the target attacks on ICE facilities, and I got to say it, but another article drops suggesting we could be entering a civil war.
Well, I mean, of course. I mean, the Latin Kings guys and I believe other gangs out in Chicago have put out actual hits on people like this, like Greg Bovino, who's out there every single day in the streets. You have the judges out there, the activist judges that are taking the sides of these violent gangs and persecuting not the gangs, but instead people like Greg Bovino, who they tried to force to come in there to court every single day at 5 p.m., which is just absolutely wild. That was just an attempt to get him off the streets. They didn't want him leading his men as he does. You see these videos of Greg Bovino. He doesn't just bark orders. He actually helps his men carry out those orders. But man, I look. We've seen the National Guard again and again and again being blocked and barred from going in and assisting federal agents, not doing their own mass roundups, but to protect the men that are being shot at and to protect the facilities that are attempting to be taken over by violent rioters and street gangs. I mean, what more needs to be done before activist judges are finally like, maybe, the National Guard should be used to protect federal agents who are being shot at in the streets.
But here's the thing: the assumption made when you call out these activist judges is that they're just activists and not enemies. And I often try to be careful, I guess, but I don't see the actions of these judges as regrettable disagreements. I think these judges are intentionally trying to abet criminal aliens, cartels, traffickers, and I believe that they have a similar ideology to the Antifa on the ground and the far leftists and the gangs that want to kill ICE.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're look at what we're seeing out in Portland, for example, where you have this activist judge that has been blocking the National Guard from just being able to protect the facility, not do law enforcement work, not chase criminals or anything, just to guard the facility out there in Portland. They know what the final result is going to be. The National Guard will end up being in Portland. That is pretty much a widely accepted outcome at this point. But every single day that they can stall and delay is another day where hundreds of illegals in and around Portland can't be rounded up and sent back home because DHS agents are too busy guarding their own facility. It's all part of the plan. That's what these activists are doing. They want to stall and delay, and it's working.
The fact that we've seen, there's videos where I don't even know if leftist is the right word. Terrorists pop the doors open on these vehicles and allow the criminals to escape. We've got this story where they tried pulling over a vehicle, and the man and the woman sped into a shopping center, jump out, and tried running into a school, and then the media tries framing law enforcement as the bad guys. I look at all this stuff, and I'm just thinking, I don't know how we don't see civil war, to be honest. I mean, I try to be, as much as I talk about it, we don't know where it's going to go or how things are going to change, but we're at this point where governors, judges are actively assisting those. If you look at Illinois as a great example, Pritzker, Johnson, and these judges attacking law enforcement, judges saying they can't have barricades in front of their facility while they're getting shot at and people are trying to murder them. At a certain point, it's like, okay, they're trying to murder these guys and you're trying to hinder the guys from protecting themselves. You want them dead, don't you? Where does that bring us as a country?
Well, honestly, Tim, I think one of the more the things that I worry about the most, and this isn't really being talked about too much, there is a campaign going on in the background to encourage jurors to essentially defect. And, it's called jury nullification. I'm sure you know all about it, where you're seeing ICE agents being physically assaulted in the streets, and juries are it's clear as day. It's on video, but these juries still go and they will acquit. Yep. Or you see grand juries that won't even indict, not because there's no probable cause or there's no just proof even. It's because they are being told that they don't have to, if they don't want to, if they don't agree with this, with people that assault ICE agents being punished, then you can just acquit them and they don't have to worry about it. And that's emboldening people to be more and more brazen, especially in places like Chicago.
You do have the sillier story where the guy threw a sandwich at a federal agent and got acquitted, which is pretty crazy. I don't think the cop was injured, but certainly you'd give the guy at least a slap on the wrist for throwing a sandwich. I'm not going to say lock a guy up for 20 years over a sandwich, but, he can spend the weekend in jail or something. He can get a couple of days. He can pay a fine. Hey, don't do that. But you are right. There have been several stories now where these grand juries and these juries are just going to acquit people. You know, what's terrifying is what we see with other big news, of course, is that Trump issued pardons for several people like, Giuliani, people who were involved in the 2020 election challenge. And you can see in a jurisdiction like Atlanta or New York City, a jury will convict no matter what. You can say the craziest stupid thing, and the political bifurcation is so intense and the vitriol is so intense that you can actually attack a federal officer and get acquitted, and Donald Trump can be falsely accused of crimes and be convicted.
Yeah, dude, I'm terrified for the American justice system at this point. It's all politically based at this point. I mean, we're going to see other folks that are genuinely guilty, like James Comey. You'll see Letitia James, and probably Adam Schiff when he ends up being indicted in Maryland. I don't see any of them being convicted, unfortunately, by juries, because they're being emboldened every time you see something like, even with the sandwich story, right? Here in the Washington, D.C. area, all the local news starts blasting it out there almost in a celebratory fashion that is going to encourage other people that are on these juries in the future to do exactly the same thing. And I mean, we're spiraling, man. And you don't see that coming from the conservative side as much as you would see from the left. People like me, honestly, if I would have been put in front of a jury in Portland, because I have been villainized so much by the media out there, even though I did absolutely nothing wrong to be arrested out there, I believe I would have ended up being convicted. Yeah. And that's just how it is at this point.
I got to be honest. I think the only reason you weren't is because the Trump administration made public statements on the issue, and it put pressure on them where they said the juice wasn't worth the squeeze. But the fact that you got attacked by Antifa and they arrested you shows this is not about law enforcement. This is about partisan conflict. And the way I described it was the police in Portland don't see you as a victim of a crime. They see you as an antagonistic enemy partisan invading their home. That's why I'm like, this is not about the merits of law enforcement, law, Congress. This is political partisans deciding when they want to defend their home and when they don't. But conservatives keep acting as though we're in an argument while Democrats are acting like they're in a war.
Everything in our collection represents a great deal we found on Skyscanner. Skyscanner sends us the latest prices straight to our phone. I win.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what they're being told. Especially, they think they're in a war against literal Nazis and fascists, and I mean, you hear that especially on the streets of Portland. At one point, I got such a credible death threat from a trans individual. We'll publish more about this soon. That I ended up backing off the streets for a few days out there because that individual was literally looking for me, was armed and looking for me, and there was nothing that was going to be done about it. Portland police, really don't show up very much on the streets out there. This is how it ended up working. When I was out on the streets of, I was talking with my attorneys and stuff that are working out there. We put together a 22-page pattern and practice of the Portland police going back years, showing how they operate against Antifa folks versus people that are perceived to be pro-Trump, where they won't issue you permits for protests if you're doing pro-Trump permits, but they will enforce the law against you if you try to have a permitless protest. Meanwhile, we see Antifa going out there, trying to burn down buildings, taking over streets, and none of that is ever enforced against them. And it's wild to me that this has been going on for over 10 years now, and hardly anything has changed. Nothing has been done. The federal government needs to come in and put their foot down here. And I'll release that document here, hopefully today, maybe even tomorrow. But the DOJ is working with me very closely on that. Wow. So hopefully something will happen.
I don't want to describe myself as pessimistic, but I don't want to say I'm optimistic. With the recent shutdown news, the government's, as of this interview, it's not reopened just yet, but several Democrats have broken ranks. But this is Biden's funding package. This was the Biden spending bill that Republicans agreed to extend and Democrats acted like they didn't want or they were angry with it. So now the Republicans are viewed as having beat the Democrats by giving them their Biden administration spending package. I look at this stuff and, Donald Trump says, end the filibuster so we can get the agenda done, and the Republicans won't do it. Yeah. So that makes me a little bit, look, there's some stuff that makes me optimistic, but I get pessimistic when I see this because it seems like 2028 is going to come around and Newsom's going to win, or there's going to be some Democrat advantage, and it's going to get hot.
It's definitely going to get hot, but man, I don't see how we passed really anything. I think we passed a total of 3 bills this year, essentially. That need 60 votes, and it's not. Look, man, the filibuster was never a part of the original Constitution. That came later. And it's not like the Founding Fathers didn't think about things that needed to have, a 2/3 majority or something, right? Like, they intentionally did not create a 60-vote threshold in the U.S. Senate. I don't believe that there is any chance in hell that if the Democrats don't retake the Senate, that they don't nuke the filibuster.
Right.
I mean, all they got to do is say, "Oh, well, we're up against Nazis right here. This is not the time. We can't be working with them anymore. This isn't going to work." And then they just get rid of the filibuster. All it takes is 51 votes to get rid of the 60-vote threshold.
Yep.
We have enough Republicans to do it, but there are too many spineless ones in there.
Democrats are going to say, well, thankfully Republicans never used the nuclear option, so we can with impunity, and that's it. The borders will be opened. All illegal immigrants will be granted amnesty. And that's it. Once they're granted amnesty, now they can vote, and Republicans will never win again, and they don't care.
Right.
They don't
care. So we got to play hardball now.
Yep. So I'm not particularly optimistic. I don't want to just act like it's black pill all the way down. I think that all of this just leads to a potential for real conflict, and we're seeing a new article every couple of weeks from some personality, some media organization saying civil war is a real possibility. But I'm curious. One how do you describe this? Something that people are speculating on that I've pointed out. With winter now coming, it's getting cold. We are not going to see people out on the streets protesting the way they were in the summer, and this means that when ICE engages in its operations, there's going to be a lot less, let's just say, resistance
friction
from the left. Yeah, friction.
I think you're 100% right. I still think that you'll have like days of flare-ups, maybe if something happens. So I think the National Guard should still be there anyway, ready for those possibilities. But in Portland, for example, on the days where it was like cold and rainy, it was pretty much nobody out there because apparently fascism doesn't need to be fought when it's cold and or rainy.
Right.
And it sort of makes the entire movement look like a joke. But I think that's going to be very true. What you're saying there, you're going to see a lot of this. You're not going to see any No Kings protests in New York in the middle of December. It's not going to happen. But also at the same time, during those months, you don't see Congress doing much either. So
right.
I expect some down months, nothing very exciting happening.
To be fair, as much as I love Thanksgiving and Christmas, this period from Thanksgiving to New Year's, it's just like nothing happens. Everything is frozen and it's boring. But boring can be good. So maybe we can use a little of chilling out. The problem is, I think the activist groups behind the scenes will still be organizing. Republicans will go, the politicians, to their families, have their vacations, and completely forget about this. Conservative activists largely will just go with their families and do holiday stuff. But I'm telling you, these far-left Antifa guys who are, wackaloon weirdos are going to keep planning and organizing, not necessarily going out on the streets, but this will be their advantage because they don't have Christmas. They don't have Thanksgiving. Some do, but these wacky street rat guys, they don't.
Well, yeah, I was even out there on Halloween, right, in Portland, and it's like a little bit sad. These people don't have, it's the same people out there. They don't have any family to go spend a holiday with or anything. So holidays really don't matter to them very much to begin with. I mean, that is their this is all they know. A lot of them are misfits, Tim. Like you probably know how this works too, because you've covered this for years. You have the Antifa type militant people, right? And then you have the misfits that don't really know what they support. They're mentally ill. They're trans, and these are the only people that they can fit in with. And so that's what they do. That's why you'll see them out there every single day, regardless. And then in Portland, in particular, you will continue to see. I think they will reset up their camp out there. The Portland police are pretending like they're doing something right now. That way, they can go to the appeals court, which because they're doing this on en banc hearing now, which is basically the entire, or at least most of the appeals judges for the Ninth Circuit out there to rehear this entire case. And so they have to say, look, we're doing something. For once in 10 years, we're actually doing something. And it's all for show. And as soon as that goes away, even in the wintertime, you will see this camp set back up. You'll see fires on the sidewalk. And there will be some sort of group there. The ones that I worry about are the leftist Antifa militants that will come out there. And right now, a lot of them are like, they have the D team out there because they don't want the National Guard to come in. So they're just sort of hanging out. Don't have OG Antifa out there at the moment, but they could come in at any time. And if you put your guard down, if ICE were to put their guard down up there, you'll see what happened back in June, where the facility was stormed and they were being held hostage in their own building. You're going to end up seeing something like that happen again.
Wow. Yeah. What's worrying to me is with Chicago, it's not even a lot of well-organized Antifa types. We're hearing stories of people throwing paint from their rooftops, gang members. It's not just this fringe political faction anymore. It's looking like what's happened over the past several years with the Biden administration, bringing illegal aliens into this country, has created massive communities of people who oppose our government, don't respect our country or our laws, and are effectively fighting against the law enforcement trying to stop it. It is maybe you wouldn't call it war, but when you have 10 to 20 million non-citizens and we can't remove them, they entered illegally, then we're on the verge of something, right? Whatever you're going to call it, you've got it in California, Oregon, Washington, Illinois, and it seems to be getting worse, particularly in Chicago. So what happens to this country? I mean, we as Americans voted for this law enforcement, but now in places like Illinois, the governor and the mayor are more beholden to the non-citizens. Zoran Mamdani says he's going to protect the illegal immigrants from Trump.
Check out the big stars, big series, and blockbuster movies streaming on Paramount Plus.
Yeah, and that's this is one of my biggest concerns out here, because obviously the immigration was probably the biggest issue on the ballot last year, and I think a lot of people are underwhelmed by the numbers that they've been seeing so far, because whether you like to say it or not, the resistance has been working.
Yeah,
it has been working, and in reality, we don't have 3 more years. We have 1 more year in order to actually get this train at full speed and meet the numbers. The numbers aren't where they need to be. I mean, I'm a big supporter of DHS. I think that the guys in there are doing fantastic work, but there needs to be more. I mean, even if we've deported 600,000 people and we're looking at 20 million people, that's hardly a dent. They want to look at just the most violent and whatever, but in reality, they need to we need to be doing mass roundups, because the fabric of the country is changing. And if we don't get rid of these massive numbers of people, and the Democrats get back in power because these areas have these massive populations of illegals, and so they still count toward the census, and we lose the House and the Senate, and they nuke the filibuster, the country is done. I don't know. I can't stress that enough.
Not just that, amnesty. The Democrats, they're going to play this game. We had I can't remember who we had on the show on IRL. They said, look, maybe we just do an amnesty for the people who've been here for a long time, and then we say no more. And it's like, yeah, it's the 4th time this country would have done that. Letting in millions of people, amnesty, and what happens? They change the fabric of our social structure in a way that the American people don't want. And what's the argument from the left? It's white supremacy. That if you were born in this country, even if you're black, and you think this country is for Americans, you're a white supremacist. They call Larry Elder the black face of white supremacy. This is what they're going to do. They're going to naturalize all the illegal immigrants that Biden brought in through an amnesty package, ending the filibuster, and the Republicans will never win another election again.
Yeah, and it's a terrifying thought, and it's very it's much closer than people think. When you've got such a massive portion of the population that believes that all of these illegals are actually victims here in a situation like this, and then they do regain power, they have the political capital. The Democrats would have the political capital to come and say, look, this is why we need to give them amnesty, because the Republicans are trying to round them up and put them in concentration camps, and this is the only way we can protect them. And you'd get a huge portion of the country that would go along with that.
What do you think we can see next year on the ground? I mean, you've been covering a lot of the Antifa stuff. We're talking about the winter being slow, but next year's an election year. So maybe we have 1 year left because the midterms are coming up. I think it's going to get really, really hot, but I'm curious, based on what you've seen, what might happen in the springtime, summertime of next year.
I mean, Tim, just being honest, like, look at how much it's heated up and continues to heat up, and how normal it is now for, when you mentioned at the top of the show that there are ICE agents that were shot at in Chicago. And I mean, this is like basically a story that's at the bottom of page 2 on all of the, not all of the news networks, but any news network's going to pick it up. It's not a headline anymore. And when it's becoming normalized like that, and you're seeing these increasing, these people that are increasingly open about calling for conservatives and ICE agents and stuff to be killed, I don't see how it doesn't get worse. And you see more of a summer of love type thing coming next year in the midterms. I mean, you look at what happened in 2020. They had this perfect opportunity, because it was an election year, this perfect opportunity to just take over the streets, and elected officials were too afraid to do anything about it and come down on them hard, because it was an election year and they were worried about either losing the majority or losing in this case, the presidency. And I think you're going to see something similar to that again. I really hope not. I hope that the federal government can get their act together quick enough and hopefully have National Guard deployed in various hotspots around the country ready for that. But unless they do that, it's going to get a lot worse.
Yeah, I think at least by just before the midterms, we can expect to see another, I'll put it this way, another high-profile assassination or killing, I believe, is very, very likely within this next year. Because the killing of Charlie Kirk was like a green light for these people. Death threats have exploded exponentially. There's so many academics who are like, oh, this certainly will wake people up and things will calm down. It's not. It's only gotten worse. I recently had a security assessment. They said it's gotten worse, and we should be upping our security more. And with I think the polling will be bad for Democrats more than it should be. Democrats should easily win the midterms next year based on historical trends, but things are changing based on the violence. So I think what may happen is, in their desperation, the far left will act out again. It's going to hurt them in the polls again. Then they're going to act out even more because they're going to fear if they lose the midterms, they won't be able to stop Trump. I think it's going to get hot. And I hope it doesn't. But if it doesn't, then I think the likely reality is Democrats just end up winning in the midterms. And once they get congressional subpoena power, even with President Trump, people are going to prison. Like they did to Bannon and Navarro.
Yeah, and I think you're very right. And when it comes to assassinations, at this point, I have moved to a stance of it's not if, it's who and when. Yeah. It's coming, and it won't be long. With Democrats retaking Congress, I think the polls do shift in that direction, and people are worried based on the election results from last week, where you saw Jack Ciattarelli. I mean, that people thought it was going to be a little closer than it actually was. I think Virginia, Republicans had a crappy candidate. I mean, I'm just gonna say that's what it was.
A lot of people
Jim
are.
Jones.
I'll say this: there are some interesting things about New Jersey. They gained 500,000 new voters in the past couple of years that all voted Democrat. Honest question: how does that happen? I'm not. There's suggestions, of course, that there was cheating. But if you look at there's viral images showing the total number of voters in New Jersey, and the vote margins between the Democrat and the Republican are always comparable with a slight increase slowly over time. For some reason, this one election, Democrats have an additional 500,000 votes. And people are saying, where did those people come from? So, regardless of whether or not they cheated, people certainly think they did. So, Nick, it's great to have you. Any final thoughts you want to shout or anything you want to shout out before you go?
There's so much data. We'll be building models all night.
Nope. I'm using Saspaya to build models and make decisions. We're done.
So you don't want these 15 pizzas?
Nobody said that.
The pizzas stay. This is their home now.
From data to ta-da, Saspaya.
Unleash your inner lion on exclusive games only at Leo Vegas, where Ontarians love to play.
Keep an eye on Portland. There'd be a big story coming out of there this week. But I also want to say on that measure, if we don't get if we don't start looking into using our DOJ to drill down deep into these elections, I know these blue states continue to stonewall the DOJ in terms of like voter registration data, and like Pennsylvania, for example, you don't even have you can go and register to vote and you don't need an ID for that either, not to vote nor register to vote. And until we get serious about that, I don't think that anybody can be fully faithful in these elections. So
if
keep highlighting that, Tim.
If they ended the filibuster, they could pass voter ID. But Nick, where can people find you?
Find me on X at Nick Sorter, NICKSORTOR, and just started a YouTube channel. Somebody took my name though, so it's at Real Nick Sorter on there.
Right on. Thanks for hanging out, brother. We'll see you again soon.
Appreciate it, man.
Take care. That is, of course, Nick Sorter, on the ground, extraordinaire reporter, covering all of that stuff. Antifa, Portland, all of that field reporting that I don't do anymore. My friends, it's been great. Smash the like button, share the show with everyone you know. We've got, I believe, Devory Darkins gearing up. He is going live. And we will send you on your way to go hang out with him. He's fantastic. Big fan of Devory. Let's get that raid scheduled. This is the Rumble morning lineup. Shout out to Steven Crowder and the Mug Club, of course, as always, leading us in.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, no matter where you are in the world. Thank you very much for joining me today. Women just stole men's money for cancer research. Movember, if you guys remember, is, guys used to grow in their mustache to bring in prostate cancer awareness, and it raised money. And it was a very good cause. And ironically, it's now being stolen by women. But they're not letting you know that it's been stolen. They're just misappropriating the funds because feminists have taken over the program. I don't know about you, but I think there's going to be some breaking point, or maybe it's not one solid breaking point where men just collectively throw up their hands and say, that's it, I quit. I'm not going to be part of this system anymore. I'm not going to play along. Or they go the route where they start becoming, I won't say aggressive, but they'll start legitimately fighting back in some way. And I don't know what way that'll be. I don't mean they're physically going to go pick up sticks and march on the Capitol. But I think more and more men are just going to retreat from society. They'll still participate in society, but they're not going to become buyers. They're not going to become spenders. They're going to become savers. They're going to slowly pull away and ostracize themselves from a society that hates them. They'll maybe become minimalists, kind of like I have become. Maybe they'll live out in the middle of the woods, like I am doing. Maybe they'll just separate themselves from the madness. Movember rips off men's health dollars. Feminists have taken over Movember. Now, I know you're shocked. Shocked, I tell you.
I am shocked. Shocked. Well, not that shocked.
I know you're shocked that women have infiltrated once again a men's-only space and have decided to misappropriate the funds. and put it towards their own causes. So we'll talk about that. And then there's this story that just came out from Jessica Winter over at the New Yorker. What did men do to deserve this? Changes in the economy and the culture seem to have hit them hard. And a feminist decides to take this opportunity to do the meme, which is, well, yeah, men really have it hard, but also women. So we're going to talk about both those today. So Movember rips off Men's Health. It's a great idea. Charity started by a couple of Aussie blokes who persuaded men to grow mustaches to support the Prostate Cancer Foundation. 20 years later, Movember has grown from that small group of men supporting hairy upper lips to becoming the major male health charity in the world. Every November, in country after country, blokes fondly imagine they're doing their bit, growing a mustache, a mo, I guess she calls it.
Gymshark Black Friday sale coming soon, up to 50% off the website. 16th of November, build your baskets now, let's go.
Yes to credit from Capital One. It allowed me to regrow my credit strength. My daughters are in their 20s, starting out.
A mustache to support Men's Health. As one of the very few events where men's issues make it onto the public agenda, men with mustaches and their financial supporters bask in the glow of raising funds they think will improve the welfare of other males. Now, again, primarily this is for prostate cancer awareness that actually kills more men than breast cancer kills women, yet women's cancer gets twice the funding as the men's. Surprising there. Little do they know, this huge enterprise run by a feminist and supported by mainly female staff is increasingly committed to diverting men's health dollars away from real male health concerns towards woke projects promoting anti-male ideology. This is one of the reasons why you need to gatekeep everything that is important to you. Women got let into men's clubs for golfing and cigar bars and whiskey lounges and gyms, and they've made their way into the Boy Scouts. They make their way into everything and then make it about themselves. As a matter of fact, the Men's Shed program that was in the UK, I think is where it started. I've done a couple of videos on that. It was a place where guys could go and have community and be alone and hang out with each other. And what did they do? They let a couple wives in, and then before you know it, women wanted to be a part of it, and now women demand to be part of it. So the guys in many locations have made a back room inside the own men's area, because again, this was supposed to be a men's thing. They've made a back room where just the men hang out, so the women can now partake in the men's event, the men's woodworking and building and crafting and things like that. The men have to go into their own little closet area in the back where a couple of them set up train sets or they set up various things for just men to do. So you let them in, they ruin everything, and then men have to configure something where they can be left alone. And I don't know who was in charge of this. I don't know the couple of Australian guys that started this, but they let a couple women in, or they let somebody in for maybe marketing or something else, and little by little, over 20 years, women took over the whole damn thing, and it happens every single time, and men still do not learn. Leave the women out of your spaces. They say last year, Movember formed an alliance with UN Women. Movember's CEO, Michelle Terry, became one of 4 global champions feted at He for She Summit, designed to mobilize the world for gender equality. She has a link here, and she says, here she is on video boasting of raising $1.1 billion over the last 20 years through Movember's 6 million supporters. Well, that's great, except the money's not going to men anymore. And when you team up with UN Women, of course it's going to be about the women. The UN Women hates men. If you ever follow their X posts that they put over on old Twitter, now X, they're always championing for women. And when people say, but what about men? Nothing, crickets. It's always, yes, but think of the women and misogyny and patriarchy and all the other crap that goes along with it. Terry made a series of comments to UN Women, including that Movember would promote healthy masculinities, which generally means publicly degenerating men and taking boys to task for their, quote, toxic masculinity. Terry also promised Movember would implement inclusive hiring, developing mentorship programs for women, and maintaining gender parity in her senior leadership role, goals which few would see as relevant to a men's health charity. So they want to make sure that they say filling it with gender parity, meaning equal. If you know, parity means equal, except now it's 70% women, and they're still hiring more women. And if you know anything about inclusive hiring, that means they're talking about LGHD TV and women that want to pretend they're men and men that want to pretend they're women and all the other things that go along with it. She continues, Terry has certainly nailed the female leadership issue. Her leadership group is now 70% women. Take a look at the Movember team at recent conference and the French Riviera. And what do you have? Well, we've got some Muslim women, someone wearing a hijab. We've got some Asian women. We've got plenty of white women. Oh, I don't see any black. Oh, there's one black woman in the back there. That's kind of inclusive. And how many guys do we have in this photo? 3 or 4 out of maybe 20 people. Legitimately. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys out of this group of, 20 people. It's the weirdest thing that these women don't see it as inappropriate to boast of taking over a men's charity. Can you imagine the fuss if genders were reversed? It's always a tricky business to include any men in prominent positions in an organization raising funds for women. Their role is usually very well hidden. But look at this brazen pair shown in a 2020 Movember feature celebrating their workplace. It hit 51% women. Here's the headline: Mo sisters break the bias this International Women's Day. The entitlement is breathtaking. Clearly, it never occurs to them that this is in any way appropriate. Now, for those of you just listening, it's 2 women holding their long hair under their nose, pretending like they have a mustache. I don't know how to express my anger and frustration at things like this. Because part of me, you can't just go in there and say, okay, we're going to destroy the organization. It's ruined. You can stop giving money to it. You can stop participating in it, which is what I'd suggest if you do want to donate to Movember. Although young people today don't have very much money to donate to anything because they're donating to try to keep their bellies full and a roof over their head because finances and the cost of living today are so expensive. But once this happens, it's like putting tea in hot water or coffee in hot water. Once they're mixed together, how do you remove the coffee from the water? Once you've made coffee, how do you get the coffee back out? You really can't. And they know that. And that's what they do, is they get in and then they start taking over more and more positions. And if you don't give it to them, here comes you're misogynistic or you're holding women down and all the other bad things that go along with it. And so if you give them the slightest bit of power, they'll say, we've succeeded, everybody, diversity. I saw a picture and I don't remember where it was from. So, take this with a grain of salt. You're going to have to just believe me that I saw this. But it was a board of some company, and they said, we are the most diverse company in such and such, in this area, or at this time, or in this market. And it was 100% black women. Now, I don't know about you, but diverse means...
You have to lighten up with the doom scrolling. Not great for sleep. Get serious about sleep.
Being diverse, having lots of different options and selections. There should be white guys and black women and Asians and Middle Easterners and all the rest of the things. But to them, diversity means no men. And more specifically, no white men. It just means get them all out. We're the most diverse because we're all black women. That makes 0 sense. But that's what they were bragging about. It went very viral on X because everybody was making fun of it. Diverse just means we don't want you here anymore. And so now their very diverse, very equity-based board is 70% women. And then what do? If you get angry over this, you can't do anything about it. It's just ruined. It's ruined now for everybody. Well, not for the women that are stealing the men's money, but I mean the men that actually started this cause. Props to the two original guys that started this, but they let the women in, and before you know it, it's ruined. They said, look at this graph showing Movember's expenditure in recent years, particularly since Michelle Terry took over in 2020. The big drop, see the blue line? This is from the initial major focus on prostate and testicular cancer research, which declined from 30% of the total spend to only 7%. They say prostate and testicular cancer outcomes, men's health program, and promotion. So what are they spending the most money on? Program and promotion, meaning they're promoting the charity to get more people to give money, but them actually spending on prostate and testicular cancer research is now 7%. It is the last funded thing they're doing. Well, in such hands, it's hardly surprising blaming men has become Movember's key strategy. In 2023, they launched the Movember Institute of Men's Health, investing $1.5 million into a partnership with the Clinton Foundation to explore how different masculinities shape men's health outcomes. So what did they put this money into? Attacking traditional conservative men that aren't on the feminist agenda, that aren't liberal, that aren't lefty, that aren't supporting all the things they want them to support. Because if you an actual man that wants to lead a household, be masculine, being the only provider, you want a woman that stays home and raises the kids. If you want any of that stuff, you're the toxic male. They hate you. And so they're actually using Movember's money to preach against men like that. They want the feminist weak men. That's where they're giving their money. She continues, last year I wrote about Movember providing $3.2 million to contribute to a national plan to end harm against women and children, running a program for the government to help young men and boys foster healthy, respectful relationships as part of efforts to end gender-based harm. In other words, brainwashing men. Since then, they've generously increased the funding to $5.5 million over 4 years. So as it goes, yes, Movember does run some sensible programs for tackling diet, weight, and heart issues, promoting mental fitness and social connection, as well as working on prostate and testicular cancers. But it's alarming to see this much celebrated male charity has been captured by women and is diverting the funds to women in anti-male programs. No wonder the Albanese government is ultra happy to hand over responsibility for men's health to this mob of women. Every day, I am contacted by desperate men seeking help, men that have been harmed, fathers who have lost everything in legal fights to see their children, men escaping physical harm on themselves, sleeping in their cars. We have nowhere to send them, so very few resources. This is what makes monstrous wealth of Movember so infuriating, knowing that they're profiting from this goodwill towards men in our community and exploiting it to promote anti-male propaganda. And to kind of wind things down a little bit, this is from the New Yorker, one of the oldest and largest publications coming out of New York. You'd think this would go right out to help men when you read the title of this article. It says, what did men do to deserve this? Changes in the economy and in the culture seem to have hit them hard. Scott Galloway, which if you don't know him, is one of these men that believes that traditional masculinity is toxic and you need to be a lefty. That's basically a feminist loving lefty. That's a real man. He says, she says they need an aspirational vision of masculinity, meaning we need to change you. They say in recent years, Galloway has also become a leading evangelist for a notion that rapidly solidified into conventional wisdom. America's young men are in crisis. Seldom in recent memory has there been a cohort that's fallen farther faster. He writes in his new book, Notes on Being a Man. To make his case, Galloway pulls from a heavily circulated set of statistics. At colleges and universities nationwide, female students outnumber males by about 3 to 2. Among young adults, men are more likely than women to live with their parents by their mid-30s. More than 15% of men still live with their folks, compared to less than 9% of women. Now, one of the reasons why that is, just so you know, because it does sound like the Peter Pan syndrome, it's that a lot of men are struggling with school, getting accepted to school. A lot of men are getting accepted into jobs because now women are being hired over men because, obviously men have had an advantage in that arena for too long. So these DEI and these other boards of companies, and a lot of HR is made up by women, and they'll hire women over men. So that's another reason. But here's another reason why. A woman can start dating a man, and if they fall in love and they like each other, the woman can move in with the man and live with him. A man's not going to, no woman's going to start even dating a guy that's living with his parents. If he says, yeah, I'm still at home while I get my stuff together, and women are not interested. Women would rather date a married man than a man living at home with his parents. I don't know why that is, but, well, actually, we do know why that is, but we won't get into that in this video. They say men die by self-deletion at about 3.5 times the rate that women do. Men's real wages are lower for the 10th and 15th percentiles of earners than they were in 1979. Currently, the unemployment rate among young men with bachelor's degrees between the ages of 23 and 30 is close to double that of their female peers. And of course, again, that's because it's very in vogue to hire women instead of men. Governor Gavin Newsom of California, on the debut episode of his new podcast, welcomed conservative influencer Charlie Kirk, who lamented Gen Z as the most alcohol-addicted, most drug-addicted, most self-deleting, most depressed, most medicated generation in history. And these under 30s, Kirk said, were receiving a pernicious message. You're not going to have the same American dream that your parents would have. He and his fellow conservative organizers saw this as an opportunity, he added, especially with young men. Donald Trump won men under the age of 30 by 56% in the 2024 election, up 15 points from 2020. For these gains, Kirk credited the coalescing electoral power of right-leaning constellation of podcasters and streamers known as the Manosphere, which encompasses libertarian bros, evangelical Christians, and nationalists. And they're right on that.
Every year, we have our friends for dinner. But in 2021, the house was flooded. We had to be evacuated. With the support of the Canadian Red Cross, we were home in time to host our dinner. Donate today.
Right now, a teen burger combo is just $9.99. What do you think?
Wow. The patty's nice and juicy. Juicy burger.
So good. This is my go-to.
Best burger.
But here's the problem. As you start going down through this article, so she admits right off the beginning, yes, men are having these problems. Charlie Kirk, who the left, of course, deleted because he was a very threatening figure to them, she admits, okay, yes, here's the statistics, here's everything they're talking about. And then she drops right into, and I'm not going to read this whole article because it'll just end up making you very, very angry, okay? She drops into, yes, but women are having it hard too. Ongoing industrial collapse has shaped many of the statistics that are central to the man crisis discourse. Yet, if you tilt some of the most commonly cited data points this way or that way, you can just as easily argue on the behalf of a woman crisis as a man crisis. Or perhaps more accurately, for an ongoing multi-directional crisis affecting it all. So, she starts out admitting, reading the statistics, and then turning right around and say, yeah, but if you wiggle these statistics just a little bit, actually women are suffering, or multi-directional crisis, because also black women that identify as men, they're also struggling, and women are struggling. Actually, everybody's struggling. And then right down here, what does she do for literally the rest of the article? She rages against men. She says, oh, young women attempt it more often than men do. Yeah, but men actually succeed more often. And then she goes statistics about women and black women, and instantly the rest of the article is bashing men because we want to be traditionally masculine, bashing men because failure to launch, bashing men because women can't find enough good men, and praising women. The rest of the majority of this article is now just calling men misogynistic and problematic, and that if they want to be masculine, they need to find, you can say if you're watching, I'm just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. 90% of this rest of this article is all bashing men because they're conservative and they're not left-leaning enough and they don't support feminists enough, and they're all the problems that we have in society. So even though men are really struggling, it's really hurting women and the rest of society because men, I know this much. At the end of the day, when I see more and more and more of this stuff happening, I'm not the type of guy that's gonna, I don't know, raise 100,000 men to go march on any of these things. I'm not gonna do a boycott or ask all you guys to pick up your phone and call into Movember and spam the phone lines to pester them about why they're doing these things. That's just not me. But the way I look at it is that we stop giving money to these causes. Do your research before you give money to these causes. And then just stop giving. We're half of the people in this country. We are. Now, maybe if you say, okay, well, half are conservative and half are left-leaning that love these crazy causes. Okay, that still puts us, if men are half the country and half of those men stop funding things and paying for things, that's 25%, roughly. What if you just stop giving to these causes? What if you stop buying from companies that hate you? What if you stop buying movie tickets from movie companies that hate you? What if you just boycott all the things? I think that right there will just starve these companies out of existence. Or, if anything else, it'll maybe break the economy and make some things have to be realigned to where all of a sudden you don't need middle management and AI takes over half of these jobs. You're going to need wrenchers. And you're going to need pipe fitters. You're going to need, manual labor that at least the guys will survive a little bit longer in the work world now that AI is going to be replacing half of this stuff. And maybe guys can hang in there a little bit longer than the women and actually end up getting ahead. I don't know what the answer is. But I can tell you this. I'm tired of it. I just get so tired. And if you go on X and you look at some of the things that people are posting about these and other stories, it just shows you, like, men are just saying no. They're demoralized. And I don't necessarily mean demoralized in a bad way, although demoralization in many cases is a bad thing. But what they're ending up doing, guys are just saying, you know something? I'm going to watch out for myself. I'm going to make enough money. I'm going to hunker down. I'm going to find a way to survive. I'm going to find a way to get ahead. I'm going to find a way to make it for myself. And the rest of you can piss up a rope. Like, I don't care. I'm not going to support women. I'm not asking them out. I'm not going to marry them. I'm not going to date them. I don't have the time or the effort or the patience to put up with that anymore. I'm going to put my nose to the grindstone. I'm going to work hard. I just want to succeed and survive this craziness. And that's what I'm going to do. There's just so many men that I talk to that just say, I'm tapping out of this. I'm creating my own friend group. I'm creating my own community. Speaking of which, remind me, I do want to mention, actually, I'll just do it now. If you want to jump over, I've got, that's the wrong thumbnail, this one, betterbachelor.locals.com. We got a great community of guys over there. It's behind a $5 paywall, so it keeps all the bots and the feminists and the crazies out. Most of the crazies, a couple guys over there are kind of crazy, but they're fun. And we do have a community of thousands of guys over there that are hanging out, having a good time. We're doing events like watching movies and football games and UFC fights. And we do watch old classic TV shows on Wednesdays, where we hang out and everything. We're creating our communities. We're creating a place to escape where we can actually find like-minded guys that agree and just getting away from all this madness. We have to. Because if you don't, you're going to get angry. You're going to get pissed off. You're going to get frustrated. And you may feel the world's against you. And in truth, it's not. There's a ton of great guys out there supporting other great guys. But it's the women that have taken over media and writing these stupid articles. Women taking over the middle management on most of this stuff. Women taking over marketing programs and advertisement and everything else. And these women keep hiring more women. And so the men have been squeezed out. And all you hear is the feminist message. And it may make you feel like the world is against you and everybody hates you. But that couldn't be further from the truth. The truth is, men are just kind of going underground a little bit. It's almost like Red Pill was very much underground. And then it became very acceptable and mainstream. And everybody accepts that it's a thing. But right now, men have kind of ceded power in a lot of things. And they can't get back in. And now you've got HR managers hiring women over men and all the other things. And so guys are like, well, okay, they know our message, but I'm going to go back underground. Not to hide the message anymore, that's where all the other guys that I enjoy hanging out with, they're all underground, getting away from the madness, getting away from the weirdness. and I'm escaping that. I think that's a good thing. I'll have more stories for you out this week that kind of show that, we've ceded too much power to the women. And I have no idea how we get it back, but I can tell you this, money talks. And if you can keep yourself successful, or at least grinding, and you can make it through this, who cares? I mean, these women are going to be out of a job anyway after a while. The economy is going to dry up. We're way, way overdue for a market correction and a crash. And, this year alone, just here in the United States, they've laid off 1 million people in the last year. There's going to be a correction at some point. The free money and the money for these positions is going to go away. And when it does, the guys that are turning wrenches, the guys that are actually working for a living, nothing against you guys that aren't turning wrenches. I just mean the guys that are doing the physical work, they're the ones that are going to turn out the best out of this. I really believe that. All right, guys, we'll leave it there. I will see you in the next one.
I got an 8-year-old versus Secret Santa.
Oh, well, Walmart has all the hottest toys, like this Primal Hatch T-Rex.
Or a Play-Doh Barbie, Gabby's Dollhouse, Gooey Gooey.
Gooey Gooey what?
Fisher Price Laugh and Learn. Ooh, Lego Botanical Flower Set, Dokin's Ice Cream Castle.
Aveeno Skin Relief with Soothing Triple Oat Complex, clinically proven for 72-hour hydration.
A lot of people have been brought in, 30, 40 million of them by some accords, and have taken all of our jobs. And the tariffs are supposed to bring back the economy so that there's manufacturing here. Okay, if all that's happening, why is nothing changing for me? When you're my age, 3 or 4 years doesn't mean too much. I mean, you think about it, at my age, 5 years is 10% of my life, maybe 8% as I age, right? But when you're a young person and you're 20, 4 years is 20% of your life. It is a much bigger deal, And so people are out there saying, hey, I got to have something done. I can't just keep waiting around while I can't pay my bills, while I can't get ahead. I'm never going to own a home. I'm never going to be able to invest in the stock market. I'm never going to make that first bit of money so I can actually become successful. And that's what people are fighting about, because right now the left is creeping towards Marxist, socialist, thinking that's going to be the right direction, which it isn't. I don't think there's much arguing about the history of socialism and how poorly it works. And in the meantime, the right is starting to drift away from the Ben Shapiros, the Ted Cruzes, the Mark Levines, the Matt Walshes, and they're moving over to people like Nick Fuentes. Now, if you're not familiar with Nick Fuentes, I'm not going to go into a rabbit hole on Nick Fuentes. But this is a guy that has very, very, very far-right leanings. He's anti-Israel. He's anti-Jewish. He's anti-many things. I won't list the whole list of them because YouTube will kick me off for just saying the words. And he's got some pretty bad takes on some things. But others, a lot of people said, something? Yeah, he has some bad takes. But at least he's saying we need to come first. This is our country. We were born here, raised here. I did all the right things. I was promised all these things. And I'm getting failed by this system because politicians want to jump on an airplane and go kiss a wall in Israel, or they want to give our money to Ukraine, or they want to give our money to NATO, or they have all these free government program giveaways to people that haven't worked in their lives or have come overseas and just show up on our shores and collect money from my tax dollars. I'm tired of this. It's why I can't get ahead. And so you've got these two groups, both left and right, that are saying, I am done with the system that we've inherited from the previous generations. And the people that are in power, whether it's a lot of politicians, most politicians, whether it's on the left or the right, both sides are saying, oh, whoa, we need to cast out these Nick Fuenteses. We need to cast out, let's see, who else? These Hassan Pikers. We need to cast out the Hassan Pikers. They're too aggressive. They're too outside the norm. They don't like the people we like. They don't support the programs we support. And young people today are saying, you've had your chance, old man. The system is failing, and it is destroying us. We gave you an opportunity, and now the right, the far right that is, wants to go even more. Shut down all social programs. Let's get rid of all this stuff. If you're not born here, get out. And the left is saying, well, get in as many people as we can. We'll make a new coalition. We'll take over the country, and we'll go socialism and Marxism. So both of those two groups are not understanding the plight and the problem of young people today, and they think they're going to whistle past the graveyard. And in the meantime, a monster is growing underneath the surface. And it is starting to break through, as we saw in the elections in New York. And granted, many of that was from foreigners voting for it. But the group that is very anti-foreign becoming in power in places like New York City is also growing under the surface. And at some point, I think it's all going to explode. I just typed in Nick Fuentes because I want to give you an example of what's going on, because Nick Fuentes was interviewed by Tucker Carlson. And literally the same day, Mark Levine, Ben Shapiro, many conservatives, some in our government, came out and they said, well, Tucker Carlson is now evil. Literally said evil. Conservatives calling Tucker Carlson evil. There's Nick Fuentes is evil. Then you have Brett Cooper. She's come out now kind of saying some of the same things that Nick Fuentes is saying, such as, hey, enough of this stuff with the other countries, enough with all the pandering to Israel. We need America first. And now she's in the mix. So now we have this big conservative back and forth war between well, you're too much of a groiper and you don't understand and we need to support Israel first. And then you've got other people on the conservative side saying, no, we're done with all this. You need to take care of the young people that are struggling and suffering. We're expiring out here. Like, we're not going to make it. And the traditional MAGA, Trump MAGA, and the left Democrats are not doing it anymore. And so both the left and the right are taking another step outward, away from the radical Democrats, away from what many might call the radical Make America Great Again and Trumpism, and they're moving even further away from each other. To give you a good example, now I'm not going to go down through everything that's happened with Mark Levine and Nick Fuentes, but I want to give you, I want you to see the number of likes on these posts to kind of show you how quickly people are moving into even more extreme camps, because young men, and yes, some women as well, but specifically young men, feel they're being disenfranchised by the system because those women, the young women that are voting, they can get on the government dime. They can get some guy to knock them up. They can get on the government dime. They'll get a bailout. The young men can't get that. Women can rely on the government. Women can get these food stamps. Women can get all the programs. Men have a really hard time accessing the programs. So as everything goes into the crater, men have no safety valve. Men have no golden parachute. And so it's the men overwhelmingly that are saying, I need to get aggressive about this. We need to make some changes because I'm struggling. I'm hurting. Well, Mark Levin, or Levine, I'm not sure. I think he pronounces it Mark Levin. He's got a show. He's got 5 million followers. He's followed by many, many conservatives. I follow him just to keep up with his posts because he's a very, very pro-Israel conservative. And, you got to see what everybody thinks to try to get all sides of things. He says, LOL, looks like I got under prepubescent little Adolf's unpure quasi-white skin. His illiterate, incoherent brain farts exited the wrong end of his dwarf-like body. But he does have his committed following of groypers. He really should replace that funeral-like suit with a brown shirt like a good Nazi. As for deportation, given his mixed background, he would qualify for expulsion to a number of third world countries where he can crawl back into his little dark hole like the cockroach he is. Psycho bastard. Now, as I've said many times, when you just start hurling names and insults at somebody and you're not throwing together arguments and coherent thoughts and you're just insulting people, you've lost. You're admitting, I'm out of ideas. I don't have any more argument with you. I'm losing, so I'm just going to call you names, okay? Well, Mark, to that post, got 3,000 likes. And Nick Fuentes just replied with, "Are you okay?" And he got 83,000 likes on that. That shows you that the old guard, the old establishment that wants to be Israel and America, and they want to keep the programs going, and we need to let's not go too fast. We're like the Democrats, just pressing on the brake a little. We're a little slower. It shows you young people are done with that. And then for the Democrat side, we're going to support these things and we're going to do this and we've got social programs, but also we need to, dance around this issue and dance around that. The left is saying, you're not going far enough, fast enough. Now we're going to go to straight Marxism. We're going to go to straight socialism. And so the sides are rapidly, just even in the last few months, are rapidly splitting apart to the point that now Ben Shapiro and, I know I've mentioned this already, but Ben Shapiro and these other people, Matt Walsh and others, are just coming out and they're blasting other conservatives. And the left is blasting itself. They're tearing at the bit to try to find out who is going to take control of this, of the parties. And the reason why they're doing it is because of young people. It's because the system is breaking down for the young people, and these established elites, whether it's in the government or the ones controlling money and the rest of the powers, they don't understand what the young people are going through. Now, I don't agree with a lot of the ways that young people are handling things, but who cares if I agree or not? I'm 50. I've been in the work world successfully for, 35 years. I've been able to get my bag a little bit. I've done okay for myself. But if you took me back to 20, 21, 22 and how hard I had it, and I was at least able to get dishwashing jobs and working at a gas station and other things. And back then, $7 an hour is probably like $15 an hour today. Young people are feeling lucky to be able to get a part-time job for $13 an hour just to try to, put gas in their car to get to work while they live with mom and dad. And no one seems to be really paying attention. Matt Walsh says the sitting attorney general of Virginia said he wants to watch the children of his political opponents get ended in their arms. That is worse than anything I've ever seen on the right say, by far. And yet that politician, the sitting attorney general of Virginia, still won the race. So you've got an attorney general, Jay Jones. He came out and he had these horrible things to say about his political opponents. And he basically said, you know what, I'd put a round in their head. I don't care if they're expired. If they're my political opponents, I'm done with them. And Matt Walsh is wringing his hands saying, this is awful. The Democrats just elected him into office, even though he said those awful things.
Summit Series was never just made for mountains. It was made for those who know the value of risk. This is 25 years of relentless pursuit.
Check out the big stars, big series, and blockbuster movies streaming on Paramount Plus. Like Tulsa King, The Substance, and The Naked Gun. Now that's a mountain of entertainment.
And what's Matt isn't realizing is we're in a different era now. The hand-wringing over some awful tweets because young people said something in a chat room. The hand-wringing because a political opponent said, I would throw him off a cliff and bury him under 1,000,000 tons, and I don't care if he's expired tomorrow. There's no more hand-wringing over that. People have had enough. They want something to be done. And granted, they're both diametrically opposed to how to do that thing. And you've got a vast number of young people saying, hey, you know what? Harm and violence to our enemies is okay. We need to win this fight. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying that this is gonna end well. I'm not saying that this is going to better the country in any way. But what it's saying is young people have had enough of having the system. The money printers keep printing. The inflation keeps going. Now you can say, oh, it's down to 3 or 4% per year now. But it was 9% a couple years ago. And before that, it was 8. And before that, it was 10. And unless you have negative interest rates, it means now, compared to 2018, 2019, pre-pandemic, things are up 40 to 50% more expensive. And for young people just getting started, they're never going to catch up. They're never going to make it. And they realize that. And so what are they doing about this stuff? This is from Zero Hedge. I just want to read the headlines here and a couple things just to give you an idea of what's going on and why people are mentally breaking down. U.S. household debt hits a record $18.6 trillion as student loan defaults explode. People are just saying, I can't pay this anymore. I can't pay my student loan debt. I can't pay my car anymore. I can't barely afford rent anymore. I can't pay my credit cards anymore. I'm tapped out. If you look into this one, transition into delinquency, do I have this image separately? I think I do. Yeah. Right here, transition into delinquency, 90 plus for student loan by age. Look at this. It was bad at 12%, roughly average. And then it fell down to nothing when Biden said, well, we're going to pay for it and we're going to suspend everything and we're going to give it to you for free. And then our Supreme Court said, yeah, actually, you can't buy voters like that. And where did it go? It skyrocketed. You've got young people, 10, 15, 20% of people that they just can't even pay their school loans. You've got buying versus renting. Look at the pricing on this. Now, when I first became a renter, it was around 1990. And this says the average price of rent here, $225 was you could rent someplace for $225 in 1990. Now, maybe that's with a roommate. Maybe that's including poor areas versus rich areas. I don't know. But housing, you could have a mortgage for about $900. That sounds right. I did buy a house in 2012, 2013. And that's when my mortgage was right around $1,000, which is about right. That's what it shows here on the chart. And yes, when I was renting prior to that, it was about $1,000 for rent. So this seems to track with what I experienced. Now, what do you have? To buy a home, it went from $1,000 as recently as 2014. And 2018 was $1,200. So in the course of 6 years, it went from $1,200 to have a house to $2,600, $2,700 to own a home. You can't save enough to catch up with that. Look at this peak. It jumped in just from 2022 to 2023. In 1 year, the house went from $1,500 to own to $2,700. That's $1,200 more in 1 year. And rent is just skyrocketing, but even that's $1,850 just to rent a place.
There's DIY, and there's doing it yourself. It's the difference between being creative and being a creator. Between a homemade recipe and a household name. Between a daydream and a dream job. It's your business, your hard work.
Now, this, and I should have probably reordered this, but this is the votes that went for Mamdani in New York. Women 18 to 9, because everybody was passing this around. They said, oh my God, women 18 to 29 went 84% for Mamdani, for the socialist Marxist. Yes, how do you overcome that? But in the same token, women 30 to 44 went for him by 65%. The women 45 to 64 and 65 plus, they went for Cuomo, just a regular moderate Democrat. What's the difference? They're all women. They're all feminists. They all believe the same thing. What's the difference? One is further left. And a lot of the younger people from 18 to 44 say, further left, man, we got to do more. Now, what about the men in the city? The men over the age of 45, mostly they were traditional conservative Democrat. That doesn't make sense. They were more traditional Democrat. Young men, 66% and 30 to 44, and 68%, 18 to 29, wanted Mamdani, a Marxist socialist. It's the young people. young people are not able to make it. And so, again, on the right, they're saying, okay, seal the border, kick people out, no more free entitlement programs. We need to start, letting our fellow countries that rely on us, like Israel and NATO and Ukraine, let them rot on the vine. We need to shore up and be America first. And the left is doing the opposite. We just bring in socialism. I had a couple more things I'll go over, but I'll just leave it to this. This is an article by Newsweek.com from just a couple months ago. Gen Z has a debt problem. Gen Z are entering adulthood with more financial burdens than any previous generation, according to a new survey. A poll by Talk Research for Newsweek revealed that Gen Z, born 1997 to 2012, carries the highest average personal debt when compared to older counterparts. Now, how is that possible? The young generation don't own homes. They don't have mortgages. They don't have the fancy cars. They don't have, family credit card debt. What's going on? They're having to go into debt for groceries and rent and just to survive. Gen Z carries the highest average personal debt at $94,000, far above millennials at $59,000 and Gen Xers $53,000. Oh, also the student debt. The student debt is crushing young people. And that in and of itself is the fault of the government. By giving these school loans that you can't default on and declare bankruptcy, and you can't clear thanks to the government. Young people, and then the schools ratcheting up their prices beyond belief because they can, because now these loans are so available. You've got the government giving out money. Young people take it. They got to pay even more for these colleges, and then they can't default on the loan. So, of course, government's happy to give them as much as they need, and colleges are happy to charge them as much as they can. And in the meantime, the young person got absolutely destroyed. The data reflects a troubling reality. Younger adults are struggling under the weight of financial pressures. More than half, 52% of Gen Z respondents said debt is on their minds most or all of the time, making it hard to have worry-free moments. Economic reports, including recent findings from the New York Federal Reserve, confirm that Gen Z is falling behind on debt payments at increasing rates, with more than 90-day delinquencies at their highest level in 3 years. Some members of the young generation are moving out of the United States as a result of financial pressure. The 2024 expat report found that 45% of Gen Z expats left the country because they wanted lower cost of living. Now, I can go down through here and read all the metrics and read all the but that's not the point.
Welcome aboard Air Canada.
Vacation, here we come. With fast free Wi-Fi, Mom can check in on Pebbles, which means I can check out. Nice. Air Canada. Nice travels.
Need it? Earn it. Want it? Redeem it. Earn and redeem Canadian Tire money with Triangle Rewards.
The point is simply this. Capitalism is successful until government gets in and messes it all up by subsidizing some things and punishing other things, by raising or lowering inflation rates, trying to control certain markets, by giving government handouts to certain production areas and penalizing others more. Tariffs is another way, and even though tariffs are at our current stage very good because we're trying to shore up manufacturing in the United States, tariffs can control these things. So people say they hate capitalism today, the left specifically, but even some people on the right are saying, look, capitalism isn't working. The problem is capitalism does work when it's not being interfered with by the government. And now we have the government giving free handouts, and they kept the border open, and the school loans and the government loans, and everything is getting screwed up because of the government, ironically, whether it's conservative government or a left-leaning Marxist socialist government. It's government getting in the way of letting business just do business. And now young people are saying, I'm never going to win this game. I'm never going to get ahead. And so in many cases, and there's another chart I didn't pull up, but young people are basically, at this point, they're running themselves into such high debt that they'll never get out of it, and then they're just walking away. They're not filing bankruptcy. They're just walking away. They're just saying, screw it. I'm done anyway. I'm going to rack up as much debt as I can, getting my education. I'm going to get myself together, and then I'm going to flee to the Philippines or I don't know, Central America or something or other. I'll just let the debt rot. I can't do it anymore. There's a large number of young people doing this. Then you've got the other side that wants, tax the rich into the dirt and give the free giveaways. And again, I won't get into why that doesn't work and all the policies. I'm sure there are smarter people than I that can explain it to you. And part of me, and I did this in a video a few months ago, and a lot of you laid into me about it because I said, look, I see the number of people talking about ordering $20, $30, $40 DoorDashes. I couldn't afford to do that when I was your age. I was eating ramen noodles and ketchup sandwiches, which was literally bread with free ketchup packs from Wendy's squeezed onto it just to give it some flavor. I'd eat ketchup sandwiches. And now, if you're real lucky, you'd get to have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. That was high eating back in the day. We drank water. We ate ramen noodles at 28 cents a pack. And I made those sacrifices. But, and eventually I was able to dig myself out and I was able to get ahead. And so my argument's always to the young people, well, stop buying the $5 or $7 coffees. Stop getting the DoorDash. Stop doing all this stuff. And I think if they didn't do that, in my opinion, they'd be fine. But the argument from young people today is they say, yeah, but even if I do that, I'm still not going to win. Even if I do that, I'm never going to have a home. I'm never going to have a wife. I'm never going to have kids. I'm not going to make it. I'm never going to make it. I'm never going to dig out. Because even, as I've said, real world circumstances, I know people that have 4-year degrees that are struggling to find part-time Christmas work right now. 2 months to go to Christmas. I know those people. Know them by name. And so part of me just has to say, no, you know what? Maybe they're right. Maybe the system of printing all this money and the bailouts in 2008 to the banks and the corrupt system that is what it is, maybe it's just finally become too much. And maybe that's why young people are just now saying, you know something, either we're going to go either farther left, farther right, and you're watching the left Democrats fight with the Marxists and the socialists, and now you're watching the conservatives fight with the Groypers and the anti-Israel crew and the far, far right, and some of which are actually have some interesting arguments, and you can see some of it where you say, oh, that actually makes sense. And then they tend to go a little bit too far for even me, and I go, well, I don't know if I can agree with all that. But the point is, young people are hurting so badly, and nobody gets it. The politicians don't. The media doesn't get it. The social media influencers that are even 35 and 40 don't understand it. It's a revolution of the young people. I think it's going to get really bad because when you ask young people and they say, I'm fine with ending the life of my opponent if it means that my will be done, that I get my way. I think it was something like 60% of young people or 65% of young people think it's okay for taking out your political rival permanently, if you know what I'm saying. What happens when they just keep going?
Walmart's weekly flyer is here to help you stretch your dollar even further. With low prices on everyday essentials, it's easier than ever to stay on budget and stock up. Visit your local Walmart today or find us online at walmart.ca.
Introducing the new Money Mart app built to make managing your money simple, fast, and on your terms. New look, enhanced tools, same commitment to you. Everything you love about Money Mart right in your pocket. The new Money Mart app.
I don't know. It worries me. It worries me for the future of our country. The same thing's happening in the UK. In many cases, it's happening in Germany. It's happening in Australia. And maybe they're not as vocal down there because they don't have free speech like we have in the United States. But I think there's an underrunning current of anger and frustration and fury by young people today. And they're saying, we've had enough and you're not listening to us. And now we're going to make you listen to us. And if you don't, we'll make sure you never win at politics again. I'll elect my enemy if it means you lose. Until you start listening to our needs, we're going to hold our votes, and we're going to hold you hostage, and you're not going to be able to do anything. And they're going to have to listen. If you'd like an interesting read and you'd like to see more about this battle, hop on X. Look, I know you may not be into social media, but X really is where the news is today. Because I see breaking news within 5 or 10 minutes of it happening. It might take 6 or 8 hours to make it to the mainstream. And even then, the mainstream usually doesn't report it accurately, nor do they tell you all the smaller battles that are occurring. But it's a fascinating battle that is occurring on X today because you've got conservatives at each other's throats, and you've got the left at each other's throats. And they're all destroying each other over who's going to control the future of our country. You've got the same struggles happening in other countries, whether it's the AfD in Germany, whether it's Le Pen's party, even though she can't run, the conservative, I don't know what they call the party over in France. It's going on in Australia. It's going on in the UK. It's all over the place. It's frightening. It's interesting. And I think it's going to get worse. Because the next step, I wasn't even thinking this till just now. The next step is AI. How many jobs is AI going to take from the young people? I mean, granted, it's going to take it from the older people too. But if I lose my job, I've got some savings. I've saved up a little bit of money. I have my home. I have my vehicles. I've kind of made it compared to young people. I'm in an easy street now, and I know I would struggle if AI took over everything. What would the young people do? Universal basic income? Just here's your money, and maybe this month you can buy, I don't know, this month you can buy food and clothing, and next month, if you scrimp on food and don't buy any clothing, you might be able to afford a couple of video games. Man, it's going to get bad. I don't know. I'm not trying to give you Debbie Downer type stuff today, but I do want you to understand, man, it's going to get dark. We are in a battle for the future. And it's global. And
like, share, and subscribe. And yeah, peace out, folks. Take a break.